All right, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. So, welcome to the extension of Virtual European Seller Conference. And today we have 5 speakers. We will run show for about 3 hours probably. And this is the result of what happened 2 weeks ago, where we did a European Seller Conference, where we expected more than 20 speakers. At the end, we got much less speakers because some couldn't make it to Prague. And today we have a chance to listen to 5 more presentations of the speakers who were scheduled for Prague, but they couldn't make it. So okay, so here you see 4 of 5 guests today. So we will be going with presentations in about 8 minutes. And I would like to present very shortly. I have a nice slide, actually. So let me check. So we have 5 speakers. We will start with GILAD, who will be talking about building a team of VAs for advanced Amazon businesses. So it's a talk not for beginners, but I hope it will be useful for a lot of people running Amazon business. We will start this presentation in about 7 minutes. Also, the next presenter will be CARINA McLEOD from, I think I always mispronounce your name, your surname.
It's the Highlander, McLeod.
McLeod, yeah, McLeod. Yeah, CARINA McLEOD. And, yeah, CARINA worked in Amazon UK at some point, and you consult a lot of vendors, right, about vendor program?
Both vendors and sellers, yeah.
And sellers. And today we will hear your presentation about how to increase customer spend and grow sales. And next will be Emma SCHERMER TAMIR. I hope I pronounced correctly.
Yeah.
And yeah, you are a copywriter, right? You are helping Amazon sellers with copywriting.
Yep, exactly. But this is really, I'll be talking not just about Amazon, but really any kind of writing you're doing. This should be helpful for you.
Perfect. So then after Emma, we will hear Jeff, who is joining us from Seattle, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Our Facebook guru.
Yeah. So, yeah, and some people asked me for the slides from Prague a few weeks ago, and I shared those slides. But this is actually going to be a lot of things change in Facebook ad world, even though it's been 2-3 weeks since I made the original presentation. So it'll be a little bit different from the slides that I'll have today.
Yeah. And then at the end, the last presentation will be by KIAN GOLZARI. He's joining us from US. So I don't know, he will hopefully jump into the call a bit later. And in his presentation, he actually wrote me that he is working on the last slides. He wants to update his slides to reflect what's happening in the world and in China right now. So it will be very interesting to listen to it. And it's probably very useful for for every Amazon seller. So we still have 5 minutes before we start GILAD's presentation. I don't know, GILAD. So can you tell a little bit what's happening in Israel with Israeli community?
First of all, I would say that I almost got not to be here because I was in Prague. You know, I am in a higher level because I was in Prague. I went all the way there. I took the chances. My wife stayed with the kids alone, and I had to go back to 2 weeks quarantine. So I did all that, and then actually they canceled all my flights back to Israel, and they canceled the first one. I booked another one. They canceled that one as well, and the only flight that I could find was the one that left like 2 hours before my presentation was due. So I was almost there. But I'm happy to be here now. And in Israel, I would say I'm talking to clients all around the world, and it looks like now everybody are pretty much lining to the same situation that you cannot leave home. The only option for you to go out is to go to the supermarket, to go to the pharmacy. Yesterday, they decided in Israel that you cannot do sports outside anymore. The only option for you to go out is for 100 meters around your home. So it's getting pretty intense.
Nice. Well, not nice, but nice that you can present for us today again. Emma and Jeff, you are in US, right? So is your business running as normal, or you feel any kind of interruption?
Well, I guess I'll jump in. I was trying to leave space in case you have wanted to say something. We're definitely feeling things because the Amazon space is in such a time of flux right now. So many sellers are not able to be just operating as normal, even though at first it seemed like that might be the case. And so what I'm really doing, because also, you know, we were supposed to be in Prague, I was going to be speaking at some other events as well. So our schedule got totally messed up, but it's giving me this gift of time that I wasn't really anticipating, to take a step back from everything and to reflect. And I'm actually feeling more creative than I felt in probably 5 years. So grateful for that.
And yeah, I know that you were messaging me and you were like 2 hours before your flight and saying, no, I'm staying home, right?
Yeah, I'm in Seattle, Washington by Amazon HQ. So Seattle has actually been more aggressive than other cities in the US. And also I just my wife had a baby earlier this year. So I was like, and trying to like not watch the news, but because I'm working from home, it's basically been where our daycare was off for a week. So then I was just like, all right, I couldn't really get any work done. So it's like Emma was saying, that opportunity to reflect and be home. But things are just kind of hearing from, just because I am in Seattle, kind of like Amazon employees and other contacts, not in person, but just kind of hearing where it's a little bit crazy. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are getting information from news. But when you do make it out to a store, it's like you just don't see a lot of people outside. I mean, it doesn't seem as crazy, other than just being different.
Yeah. And Karina, you are in UK, right?
Yeah, I'm in the UK. So we're on lockdown now since third day in, since Tuesday. We're still at a point that we can go out and exercise. So, you know, once a day. I don't really know how that's actually monitored. So I think everyone just puts their exercise clothes on to make it look like it, possibly. But yeah, I mean, whether or not the government decide to be a lot more strict, like you mentioned in Israel, because it becomes quite hard to actually monitor. So yeah, at the moment we're learning new homeschooling skills and lots of different things.
Perfect. All right. So thanks to Emma, Yef, and Karina. If they will join us at the scheduled time. The schedule, actually, you will see, those who are watching, you will see in the description of this video. And also, if you haven't done yet, don't forget to subscribe to the future about other events. All right. So switch off Emma, Karina, and Yef. And if you will be around, see you on according to the schedule. And I would like to present GILAD, who is running the company which helps Amazon sellers with virtual assistants, right? And you were selling on Amazon since 2015. I hope all this information is correct. And yeah, unfortunately, I remember this moment when you were in Prague and you took a selfie with me 2 hours before your presentation, and you said you are leaving to the airport. So yeah. Can you try to share your screen and see if we can...
All right, let me see. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. You have to click maybe one more time.
No, you don't?
No, not yet.
Strange. Let me see again. Let me go back.
I will switch off my screen. So try again. All right. So now we'll have presentation for 30 minutes by GILAD. If there is time within this time frame, we will give a possibility to answer questions.
You don't see my screen yet?
No. Maybe I have to stop sharing. No, I don't think so. Try again.
It doesn't give me the option to share my screen. It just gives me the option. I think maybe you have to stop sharing your screen.
I stopped.
All right, let me try again. It shows me that I'm sharing my screen. So maybe we can ask the viewers or something if they can see my screen or
no, they cannot see.
Very strange.
All right. Try to reload your page. I know you will be kicked out, but just to try again.
All right, I will try again.
So, while GILAD, I hope will manage to pull out his slides. Are you still here, GILAD?
Yeah, just a second. I'm sharing the screen. It doesn't just give me the option.
We cannot hear you. I know we can, but we cannot. Can you try to reload the webinar? Oh, now I see your slide.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Turn on your presentation. Sorry, guys, for this delay. So, GILAD, we will listen to you. And if you guys have questions, please type them in the comments, and we will ask them GILAD afterwards. So, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so first of all, thank you, Augustus, for allowing me to speak. And I go straight from the beginning. I tell you that this presentation is not going to be about virtual assistants. Okay, the focus would not be on virtual assistants. We're not going to talk about where they're coming from, how much do you pay them, and how how you find them. The idea is really to focus on you guys, Amazon sellers, and how you could upgrade your business and move to the next level using virtual assistants that will help you to manage it. And when I'm talking with Amazon sellers, and I talk a lot with Amazon sellers, like I said, I'm an Amazon seller myself. And when talking to Amazon sellers, usually, I mean, the fact that you all came here shows one thing. It shows that the people that came to Prague, the people that join us here, you care about your business. You want your business to grow. You understand that there are a lot more things for you to learn and do. However, it means also that your business is not perfect yet. And when I ask people, okay, you know what you need to do, why won't you do it? I mean, you know that you have to do this and that and that and so many things to improve your business, like you listen to all these lectures. So why don't you apply them? Why won't you advance? And the answer that I get almost every time, and ask yourself the same question, the answer would be always, I have no time. Okay, or it's going to be like the major 95% of people who say, I just don't have time. I don't have time to do everything. I don't have time to start creating a Facebook group and maintaining a community outside of Amazon. I don't have time to run all my PPC ads, and I don't have time to answer each and every reviewer or feedbacker, and so on. So I just can't do it all. And that's a real bad situation here that I think is in common to many Amazon sellers who start selling on Amazon thinking, wow, this is easy. I can do it from home, like 1 or 2 hours a day in the same time with when having a family and kids. But when the sales start to grow, and when you're starting to have more and more business coming in, then suddenly you have this. And on the same time, when I'm talking to Amazon sellers, and this is really weird for me. I mean, this is what I think was crazy for me. When I'm talking to people, then I hear again and again, especially from novice to intermediate sellers, I hear the next sentence. I hear like, why do I need a VA? I'm currently doing everything myself and it works just fine. And I think when focusing on this is the biggest problem that we see with online sellers, especially sellers of Amazon, but online sellers in general. The thought that you can actually do everything yourself and everything will be just fine. And that is really like the biggest problem that I hear. And when I hear a seller saying that to me, I've been around since 2015. I know a thing or two about Amazon. I can already tell when a seller is saying that, it means that if this person will not change the way that they think about his business, then it means that in 1 or 2 or 3 years top from now, this person would either not, I mean, the business would just not sell on Amazon anymore, or it will be in the same place, or even they will get less and less sales every year because they're like we just said before, we just don't have time to do everything. And I think that the best way to solve this problem is to take this situation outside from the online world and back to the offline world where we all grew up in, and think of a situation that is pretty much similar. Okay, so let's imagine that we have John here, and John has decided that he wants to open a restaurant, and he's never owned a restaurant before in his life. He never managed a restaurant before. He actually never even worked as a waiter before. Okay, but he wants to open a restaurant, and I don't know what he will do next, but I know that the first things that John will do, and that is absolutely certain, the first things that he will do is to hire a chef, to hire a bartender, and to hire a waiter to carry the food. Okay, that is obvious to us. Okay, and we accept it. It means that if we see somebody opening a restaurant and saying, okay, I can do everything myself, I will be the cook, I will be the server, and I will also prepare the drinks, then we'll say this guy is crazy. Okay, but we don't say that when we're talking about online business. And that's what's striking me, because it's the same thing. Business is business. And the way that we accepted people that opened a restaurant before, and they paid all this money for renovating the restaurant and renting the place and paying for all these salaries before the first customer even arrived, that makes sense to us in the offline world. But when going back to the online world, suddenly we're saying, oh, I can do everything myself and it works just fine, and it doesn't work just fine. Okay, they even have a name for it. We call it the Superman syndrome. Okay, the Superman syndrome means pretty much this. Okay, I'm Superman. I can do everything. It's all focused into one computer screen. So I can sit in front of my computer and basically I can do it all. I can do customer service, and I can do PPC, and I can do social media, and I can do everything because it's just in front of me. So you think that it's fine, and you start that way, and that's fine that you start that way. But sooner or later, two things will happen. First of all, like we said before, you will see that you just don't have enough time, because when you have one or two ASINs, then you can basically do everything. But when the business starts to grow and you continue to do everything yourself, then you're pretty much gonna slack a lot of things. Okay, you're gonna suddenly, if you monitored your ASINs before on daily basis, every day you looked to make sure that you have all the right reviews and you have all the right feedbacks, and the top reviews are on the right place, and the Q&A is right, and nobody's taking your buy box. Suddenly with 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 ASINs, with all the stress that you have now on your Amazon business, suddenly you're not doing it anymore every day. You're doing it every 3 days, and then after that every week, and then after 2 weeks. And you know what? I'm going to Amazon now, and I swear to God, I see businesses, I see lists that still have on the first bullet saying Christmas biggest sale, join in. Okay, and it means that this person, either they don't care about Amazon, or they just don't have the time or the focus, to go in and do what they did before. And you can really see that. So that will happen. Your business will start to go down because you're not doing the things that you did before in the same level. And the second thing that will happen is that you will eventually get tired from it. Why? Because you're not doing this entrepreneurial thing that you joined Amazon to do. You're suddenly starting to waste time on answering each and every person that contacted you and saying that they ordered this shirt white, but they got it in blue, and this hammock is too small, and so on. So and instead of saying, wow, thanks for this great opportunity for somebody to contact me, and even if they say a bad thing about my product, I have a chance now to listen to my clients and understand how I can make it better. And I can contact this person, look it up, and find him and contact him and do whatever it takes to make this bad review, change it to a good review. I used to call people before, like 5 years ago when it was okay, we got the numbers. I used to call each and every person that gave us a negative review. So suddenly you're not doing it anymore, and you're starting to think of it as something that you don't want to do. You're seeing another bad review, you're saying, oh no, now I have to contact this person and looking up, and that's not the way that a serious business should act. Okay, so eventually what happens that instead of this Superman, we're starting to get this Superman, and this Superman will show up very fast. It will show up in the first year or in the second year, but that's not the life of an actual business. That's maybe the life of a sidekick. But if you're looking at your Amazon business as something for the long run, then that's not the way to work. Okay, so we're going to focus now on this lecture on how virtual assistants can help you improve your Amazon business. Okay, so when I'm answering this question, I'm giving usually 4 reasons why and how a virtual assistant can help you. So the first thing is that a virtual assistant can work and can do the work that must be done on daily basis. Okay, all the things that probably a lot of you are doing yourselves at the moment, like answering feedbacks, answering reviews, commenting to emails, doing shipment plans, finding new products to launch, all these things that spending hours waiting on the phone for somebody on Amazon to pick up the phone or to answer your email or spending some time with your Chinese supplier, all these things that you're doing on a daily basis, think about for a second that you don't have to do them anymore, but they will still get done. Okay, and the way I do it usually is I ask myself this question: am I the only one that can do the task that I'm about to do? Am I the only person that can do it? Because if the answer is yes, if this is a decision that only me as the owner of the business can take, then definitely yes, I should continue to do it because there is no replacement. Only me can take this decision about my business. But if the answer is no, somebody else with the right attitude, with the right training, with the right capabilities, but somebody else can take this task and do it for me, then okay, that's not mine anymore. That's somebody else should do it. I should focus on the things that only I, as the owner of the business, can do. Okay, the second thing is the advanced work that you would normally postpone. Okay, so it's not the everyday work that you have to do. It's the things that you said, okay, when my business will be 50,000 and more a month, then I will go in and create my community on Facebook, and I will launch new product using this community. But for now, I don't have the time. I will do it later when the business grows. Okay, so imagine now that you have a virtual assistant that her entire job is to work on your Facebook group and develop your brand outside of Amazon. So now it's not anymore a question of if you could postpone it or not. Somebody's doing that for you. Okay, so that's something that the VA can help you with. And when combining number 1 and number 2 together, then we're basically getting number 3, which is giving you the freedom to manage your business instead of working in it. Okay, working on your business instead of working in your business. Working in your business means that you're doing all the things that you just have to do, but they're not getting your business to a higher level. Okay, working on your business means that basically you're planning the future of your business. You're doing the things of a manager. Okay, you're doing the things of an owner. Okay, so again, when I'm talking about managing your business, this is not what I'm talking about. Okay, I took this photo because I think it's funny that I used to see it all over Amazon. You know, all these courses, online courses of 3 months, and you'll be sitting on the beach working and your Amazons and getting sales overnight. Okay, so that's not what I'm talking about. Look at this photo. the computer is even not turned on, not to mention Wi-Fi on the beach. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that you will have the freedom to manage other people in your business, that they will do all the things that could be done, and you will have time to focus on growth, on where your business will be in 5 years from now, what you want to achieve in your business, which other things you want to go into. Okay, so that's the third point. The fourth point is actually selling your business. Okay, selling your business is something that, frankly, without VAs, I don't see how it could be done. It could be done maybe, but I mean, as a seller, okay, I know that if I'm going to buy a business, I would like to see that the business operates by itself. Okay, that all the SOPs are done correctly, that each and every person on the job knows exactly how to do it, and that I don't need the previous seller anymore. The previous seller could step aside and I could go in, buy the business, and the business will continue to thrive. Okay, but if you're the only person that's doing everything in your business, then forget about selling it, because once you're out of the picture, then there's nobody to do anything. So if you want to sell your business for the long run, you should already start planning it, because Amazon is all about thinking ahead and planning ahead. Okay, so these are the 4 steps, the 4 things that a VA could help you with. But now let's go deep and let's dive a little bit deeper into Amazon and think of what the VAs for Amazon would be helping you with. And the way I see it, I divide it into 4 points. Okay, we have Amazon VAs, PPC VAs, social media VAs, and graphic designers. Now, the reason it's 4, it's not because you need to have 4 VAs in your company. If you have a small business, then you can have one VA that will do basically multiple tasking and will help you in some of the things. If you are a very big company, you maybe have even a department of PPC VAs and a manager to manage them, okay? But that's the core that I see. And we're gonna talk about now on each and every type of VAs. Each one of them has their own personality, has their own character. A PPC VA will be completely different, will have a completely different character than a social media VA. He or she will be more into numbers, into Excel, a more mathematical kind of way of thinking. Social media VA would be more about artistics and Facebook and Instagram and connecting to society and so on. So it's different, and we're going to talk about each and every one and see in a glimpse what I will give you some examples. Not everything, there is a full list, so and it doesn't end. So we're going to start with the Amazon VA, and every time I'm going to choose one topic and I'm going to go a little bit into it. So with Amazon VAs, basically they can do the customer service, they can do the inventory, the shipments, the checking daily of your ASINs to make sure that everything is okay, inventory reconciliation, claim management, talking to Amazon, and even helping you to source the right products, looking for the right products, talking with your suppliers. And on that subject, I actually want to go deeper into sourcing, because this is something that was so relevant to us about 2 months ago. Think of what happened in China 2 months ago when suddenly no factory was open and everybody was stuck. So if you had no VAs, then their only option for you would be either to do it yourself or to wait until something happens. But if you're looking at the future, if you want to advance and think what you want to do and what you want to achieve in your business for the long run, then you could already start telling your VA to be looking for other supplies outside of China. So let's go into that. Sourcing outside of China. And when I'm saying that give your VA to do this task, it means that it's complicated, okay? I'm not talking about that your VA will go to Alibaba and look for supplies that are not Chinese, okay? Alibaba, hello, it's Chinese. Everything over there will point you back to China, okay? And it's not going to be about going to Google and writing down factory India for toys. The same thing, it will probably bring you results, but it's not the results that you want. It's the most expensive results of the most expensive factories in India. You want to work with the good factories, the one that will be available to you to make changes and will have the lowest price. Okay, so that means going deeper and look for authorized government suppliers, indexes, lists of suppliers, the ones that their URL ends with gov or org. I'm not going to go into it so much. I'm just going to give you a short example here. That's a website from Malaysia, an index of Malaysia. You can see that the URL ends with gov for government, and you can see here there is a list of all the export that they're doing, perfumery, coffee, and so on. All you need to do is just to choose the right supplier to start contacting them and see if they can offer you something that in China they cannot, or even have a second plan. Another option would be to look for manufacturers in exhibitions, in countries such as Thailand, India, and Turkey, because if you have exhibitions like this, then you can just see who is performing and who is showing over there, and you can contact each and every person directly, and this will give you direct access to these exhibitors. Okay, this is example from India. It's funny because you can see here a sourcing fair in St. Petersburg in Russia, and March 18 to 20. I screenshot this page in the beginning of March. So it's before everything got crazy. Obviously, there is I don't think there is any sourcing fair in India right now, and nothing happened in March 18. But that's the way to do it, to look for exhibitions and to start questioning and contacting the people over there and getting results. And finally, when you're getting results, then you have to contact the potential suppliers, ask for all the information that you need, ask for the pictures, the evaluation reports, creating the reports, asking for samples, and basically do whatever you do on Alibaba, but this time you're doing something different. You're doing something that very little people are doing, and that's an advantage. If you're doing something that little people are doing, then you're gonna get to a place that is unique. You're gonna get to the blue ocean, right? So that was just in a glimpse about Amazon VA. We can talk about Amazon VA forever, but let's move on. PPC VA. So obviously the idea here is to manage your campaigns, you know, the bid optimization, the ACOS management, keyword research, downloading and understanding the meaning of your reports, product targeting, which is something fairly new. About a year ago they started it, and your Amazon VA can definitely target your competitors and look for your competitors there. But I would say that the most important thing is that once you have somebody who's dedicated only to that specific job, so only to PPC, you have a PPC VA. So their job would be, first of all, you know that the job will be done because they will have their schedule, they will have their checklist, so you will know that it's being done. It's not only about if you will have the time to download the reports and you will find yourself doing it every 3 months. Okay, it's somebody who's doing it on a daily basis. And the fifth point here is actually pretty interesting because this is really new. It's called sponsored display. If you go on Amazon and you can read more about it, it's targeting the same audience as your products based on shopping behavior. Okay, so this did not exist before. Customers that have already viewed your products, similar products, or relevant categories, and look how it looks like. Okay, this is all new. So this is how it looks like your ad will display on Amazon, but they retarget these people outside of Amazon. So it's all the algorithm of Amazon when they decided the behavior of a customer, of a potential client will be interested in your products. They will continue to chase him for you, even outside of Amazon. But you will need two things to happen. First of all, you will need your VA to help you to create the ad and to put all the information together. And second thing, you will need somebody to always be updated on PPC world, to read all the posts out there and to participate in different courses and to really get into PPC. So once this kind of thing happens, then immediately this VA will tell you, okay, there's something new, let's try it. Okay, and when you're trying something new, then you're doing something that nobody else is doing. And usually that time it's free. Okay, imagine lighting deals. Okay, lighting deals in the beginning, they were free. Now they're not free anymore. Now it's a completely different ballgame. Now it's so competitive. So it's not even, most of the time or a lot of the time, it's not even worth entering. So it's a huge difference than becoming the first one to apply something or not. Right? So that's the PPC VA. Social media VA, basically the same thing. Obviously managing your Facebook group, your Instagram group, creating your brand outside of Amazon. Okay, so you could have your own clients that you can talk with directly instead of going through Amazon and using this audience for launching new products, for testing what will work best, and so on. So once you have a social media VA who's all dedicated to this, then you could start really putting effort and really investing in your brand. The third point is influencers, which is very interesting because a lot of people don't do it, or maybe they try it once or twice, but influencers are really one of the best ways today to get either ranking by keywords or get reviews. And the way to do it is not that easy. You have to find the right influencer. So the VA will have to find the right influencer. The VA will have to check what this influencer did before and check if this is really what the VA and what your business will be interested in. And creating some kind of a contract with the influencer and sending them a free sample of your product and checking that this influencer actually did what it was supposed to do, creating the coupons and many more things that either you have plenty of time left or you're just not doing it. And then a social media VA will just do it on a regular basis, not just on launching. Okay. And the fourth point is something really interesting. It's new. It's fairly new. It's about a half a year ago. I don't know if all of you heard about it, but it's really super cool. It's Amazon Posts. It's like it says, it's posts, but inside of Amazon. So this is how Amazon themselves describe it. You can differentiate your brand. Okay, so basically it's like posting on Facebook only on Amazon. It will be inside your listings. Okay, right next to the description, you will have your post right over there. and it will give you wait a minute, it's not even on your listings. It's going to be on your listings and on your competitors' listings. Okay, so imagine somebody going to your competitors' listings, reading everything, getting all excited about a product, and then in the end of it, seeing a post which is your post, getting interested, reading the post, clicking again, and hop, they're in your listings, they're buying your product. Okay, so this is amazing, and it brings you all the metrics like the views, the clicks, the click-through rates. So all this is really interesting, and the best thing is that look what they say, it's currently free. Okay, when Amazon is saying it's currently free, it means that it will cost money sooner or later. But now less people are using it. That's the time to move, and that's the time to do it when you have a dedicated VA that will tell you about it and will help you to move forward with this. This is how it looks like. On the left, you can see the brand-owned detail page, so you can see how it will look in your own listings. But right next to it, you can see how it will look like in your competitors' listings, and how it will look like on the post feed and the category feed. So there's so many opportunities here for you to basically publicize your products without any cost. It's like PPC for free, okay? And that you have much more control of it because you have much less players around. Okay, so super interesting. And it was just a glimpse, so that each VA can help you with many things and dedicate and help your business grow. Let's talk a little bit more about how to actually work with multiple VAs. So when working with multiple VAs, the first thing we need to know is how to communicate. What's the communication ways between them? You could start, if you have one VA, you could start with the WhatsApp. This is how I started talking on WhatsApp, recording messages, or using a Skype from time, like once in a week, Google Hangouts, and so on. So that's always effective, and it's great. And don't just use emails to contact your VA. Okay, use constant communication with them. And once you're becoming a bit bigger with more than one VA, like 2, 3, 4 VAs and so on, then you can already start to use specific softwares. I just mentioned 2 in here. There is Slack and Chanty, which are probably one of the biggest ones. There's also Monday, there's ClickUp. So there are plenty of other options over there. These 2, they also have the free version and the cost, and that's the other option is cost 8 and 4. Slack is more known, so it costs like twice. It looks like this. You can see it looks pretty much the same. It looks like WhatsApp for businesses. So WhatsApp for businesses, you can have communicating with many VAs together. The fourth thing is Zoom. So it could have been new to you if it was a month ago, but now everybody's talking about Zoom. Everybody's using Zoom because everybody are quarantined. So you know how effective this could be. Managing your VAs is also important. So there are a couple of ways to do it. Obviously, you should always document things, either by videos or by SOPs or by both, or creating like some kind of a wiki and use Google Docs for that. That's the basic, to have everything written down. Even the VA can help you with it. The VA can write their own SOPs. After that, there are obviously the same thing. I will not go deeper into it, but there is Trello, Asana. These are managing tools that are also free. And up to there is also a paid option that could help you, run tasks, create tasks with colors, with dates, with many information. So this could really help you to manage. Monitoring and security. So security basically means, if you don't know how it works, that on Seller Central you have user permission. So if you're afraid that your VA could go in and either get you suspended, or just walk in and read all your bank information, it will not happen. You can decide exactly what you want your VA to see and to do on your Amazon Seller Central, and you give them their own user permission and password. So they will never enter from your username and your password. And the second option, the second thing here is monitoring. I don't like it that much usually, but the Time Doctor is a very effective way to really be the big brother and watch exactly what your VA is doing. You can see over there screenshots. You can understand where they're working from, what's how much time in an hour they move their mouse or keyboard. So basically, the idea will be that everything is already created. It's very easy, and I will be happy to answer questions about it. Now, let's talk about the biggest problems for Amazon sellers once they've decided to take a VA. Okay, so I see two problems here. First of all, where do I find a good VA and a trusted VA, the one that I can trust and will not disappear? And the second question is, who has time to teach this VA from scratch about Amazon? And this was basically my problem as well when I started selling and when I started working with virtual assistants. And actually, this is what we're doing now. It's going to be a very short presentation about ourselves, but and that's the last slide. So VA Academy Philippines, our only goal is to allow Amazon sellers to focus on their growth, okay, to manage their business instead of working in the business like we talked before. So we do it by giving you guys the best virtual assistants that we can find in the Philippines, and then training them specifically on Amazon, either PPC or Amazon or social media or everything that I talked before. You can go on our website, you can contact us over there or contact me through here, and we'll be happy to help you and answer any question. Augustus, are you still there?
Yes, of course. Yes. So let's see if we have. Do you hear me well? There was some issues with my voice.
Yeah, I can hear okay.
Okay. Yeah, I have trouble with microphones. All right. I was thinking, you're promoting VAs in Philippines, and it's a classical example. Are there any other country which you think have reliable kind of VAs, and it's very popular among other business owners?
Well, I would say that the Philippines is the most popular one. It's the biggest country in the world to give, percentage of the population that are working in services from online services from home. It's because they're very good at. Their English level is very high, and they speak even with slightly with an American accent. At least the VAs that we're working with, and they're very customer service oriented. I will not go and start to trash about other countries. Obviously, there are very good VAs anywhere, but this is my best. I worked with VAs before with many other countries. Obviously, there is Pakistani VAs and companies, and there are other countries as well. But for me, that's the favorite, and for almost most sellers.
Okay, we have one question. How can the VAs be used for different countries and languages? For example, community building in Germany probably requires a native speaker. How can your company, VA Academy Philippines, handle that?
Well, you're right. So obviously, as the native language of the Filipinos will be Tagalog, and they will be speaking very good English, so they will be perfect to work in the US and the UK, like the English-speaking countries. However, we have several sellers that are also selling in Germany and other non-English speaking countries. And then usually you have to decide, either you're taking a native German speaking, for example, that will help you. The cost will be completely different. Or you could use the VA to help you. You know, Amazon, they're giving English support to countries as also in Germany. But the idea here is that if the VA, and this is a true example that I know that one of our customers is using, the VA is using templates and is using Google Translate in order to answer in German, but they add in the beginning of the sentence like a shorthand sentence saying, "Hi, I'm working as a customer service for this company, for this brand. I do not speak native German, so I'm using a translation to help me. However, it was important for me to contact you in your own language. I hope that you will excuse me for that, and I'm here to give you the best service that I can." And usually this will help, and then you continue to work with Google Translate, and things will be okay.
Perfect. We are running out of time. There is another question, but Gilad, maybe you can answer this in the comments of YouTube feed. They asking if your company can help to train existing VAs. And before you leave, I wanted to give you a virtual speaker trophy, but actually I know that you have it already in your hands. I gave you while you were in Prague. So
yeah, you're right.
This is how the trophy looks like. And I cannot give you any more second one, but I hope it didn't break during your trip. So thank you very much, Gilad. And next one, we will have CARINA. And CARINA will wait a moment. Is it Carina? Yeah. Let me check the slides. I think here. Yes. So let me bring Carina on board and GILAD. Okay. Hi, Carina.
Hi, everyone.
Your name of the company is quite interesting, e-commerce nurse. It's a very, probably you get a lot of clients at the moment because everybody talks about medical help.
Yeah. I often get asked sort of why e-commerce nurse, and the idea, of course, is to help those with their e-commerce needs. But given the times at the moment, I guess that can create some element of confusion at the same time. So yes.
Perfect. So I think we're ready for your presentation, and I will bring your screen now. And
fantastic.
The time is yours.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So hi, everybody. Sorry I wasn't able to meet a lot of you face-to-face in Prague a few weeks ago. It seems that a few weeks ago seems a very long time ago because a lot has changed and been going on since there. So hopefully I can then get across what I wanted to talk about in Prague over to you today to give you some tips that you can then take away. So I am going to be talking about 9 ways that you can increase customer spend and grow sales. Now, this isn't complete rocket science. I'm not going to be here in this presentation to give you completely new things to do. What I'm going to be doing is giving you some tips for you to be able to go away later today, tomorrow, to make some tweaks to probably what you're already doing in order to help you boost that customer spend, that basket size as well. So a couple of things actually here on which I'll go through is, first off, when I talk about customer spend, so there are almost 3 ways in which you can increase the amount the customer is going to spend with you. So first off, there is the purchase quantity. So that one's a pretty obvious one in the sense that you want to try, depending on your product and your product category, but you want the customer to purchase more than one, let's say. So you want the customer to be purchasing volume. We can then look at cross-selling. So what cross-selling is when a customer might purchase one of your products, but then you introduce them to the wider portfolio of your products and they end up buying more and not just that one item. Alternatively, you could upsell as well. And upselling would be, okay, the customer might be looking at your basic product, but you actually want them to spend and buy your more premium product because that's got greater margins and probably has a higher profit margin. And so it's about upselling and trying to highlight the wider portfolio again to the customer to make them then make that decision on whether or not they want to purchase the higher priced item. And so that's really what I'm talking about when I talk about increasing customer spend. Now, Amazon is already doing that. They're doing that in many different ways across the website and across the product detail page. So the ways that they're trying to get customers to spend more is through different widgets. So a widget here would be frequently bought together, which you'll be familiar with, that appears on the product detail page. Prime example here, and this is, and if before I'll probably get a few questions as in, so how do we make that happen? Well, actually, these are automated widgets. So unfortunately, there's no influence that you have over these. But this one is a great example where actually Amazon's advertising in 3 products from the same brand. So that brand, that's an awesome thing because that doesn't always happen, as you can see in my previous example. But this is just one way in which Amazon is trying to get the customer and cross-sell across a wider portfolio of products, although it's not just selected to one brand. And they also have things such as customers who viewed this item also viewed X as well. Other things you can also have is sponsored products related to this item. So there is a degree of influence that you can have here in the sense that you can set up sponsored product ads, your automatic ads, to get some more presence on other competitors' product pages as well. Now, checkout. Amazon also has, if you're going and you're making a purchase on Amazon and you add something to your shopping basket, you'll notice that Amazon starts putting loads of other products in front of you, enticing you to buy something else. You know, they start saying, well, again, what we've spoken about, frequently bought together, customers who viewed X, viewed Y. This is all sort of through that customer journey of adding that product, looking at that product detail page, to then adding that product to cart and then going to checkout. So these are all the things that would be ideal if you as a seller could influence and you could create this experience. But unfortunately, as we talk about, I use the word ideal, which means that it isn't something that you can do at the moment. So what it is, and also on the homepage as well. So what really I want to talk about is sort of giving those examples to get you in the mindset of how we can, the opportunity of cross-selling, the opportunity of getting customers to buy more than one or buy a variety of your products, just through a simple tweaks to your current strategies. And I'm going to talk about 9 of those strategies today. So first off, A+ content. Now, I'm not here to talk about A+ content and say, oh, you should do A+ content because it's going to increase conversion. That's not that. It's most of you will already know the benefits of A+ content. And hopefully, if you have access to A+ content, you already have it, because it's really a must. It isn't something, if you have access to it, you must be making the most of your product pages, give you competitive edge, and really be able to use as much retail space on your product page to sell your product. Now, what I want to talk about is how you, within that A+ content, start introducing a wider portfolio of your products to start cross-selling or possibly upselling. So an example here is an A+ content. It looks good. It looks good. And for those, I apologize because I've got a lot of examples here of different brands. So if you're like, no, that's my brand, and I'm sort of using you as an example and it, not necessarily the example that you probably want to hear, apologies. I've sort of gone online and tried to take different examples to help get the message across in terms of what tweaks you can make. But here is an example of an A+ page. Graphically looks fantastic, you know, really is enticing. But the couple of things that isn't happening here, and this brand, for example, I've seen does other products in their range. But when you look at this product page, all you can see is on Amazon, that this brand is doing vitamin D3. You're not seeing that they're doing vitamin C or, you know, B12 or anything like that, just vitamin D3. Now, if you are doing all of those, like, for example, this brand here, what you want to do is you want to highlight that you do vitamin B12 or vitamin D and vitamin C. And this is an example. I actually put this presentation together before I actually flew to Prague, and I had to start upping my vitamins to make sure for an immunity. So you'll see that it's quite relevant at the moment. But this is an example, and I was looking at it, and I like the way they actually created this A+, because whilst I'm talking about introducing different vitamins, this is a brand that has vitamin D, but they have it in different amounts and for different age groups. So here, for example, when I was looking for vitamin D, I could then see, oh, actually, I could purchase vitamin D for my daughter as well. So as a result, I didn't only purchase one, but I purchased 2. And in fact, I ended up purchasing a number of other different products from this brand as well, through the different ways of them cross-selling. So that's one example of how what you could do with your A+ content. It's about using this comparison chart as a module to highlight your wider portfolio. And you can do that in a couple of ways. It might be, for example, here with this brand, they have different eye products, anti-aging creams and so forth. And so what they've done is they've added, the products aren't necessarily, oh, this is for adults, this is for kids. This is saying, okay, this is an anti-aging product, this is what you use it for, this is when to use it. And there's different ways. I mean, you can create what you want in order to differentiate the products, to help the customers see the differences in order for them to either upsell or cross-sell. So this would be more of an example where you could cross-sell. So you're highlighting to the customer, okay, they could buy the ultra hydrating anytime cream, but they could also get the night serum, for example, as well. And so that's a way to cross-sell. An example here would be where actually the customer could, where this brand here is trying to get the customer to upsell. So the customer might be going for looking at the really basic model, but when they come down to this page, they can start saying, oh, okay, well, actually, I was going to buy the basic model, but actually I want duplex printing. And so they end up purchasing a higher value printer. And this again is an example. I've recently moved back to the UK, needed a printer, and I did exactly this and probably ended up buying one of the premium ones because I was able to compare the features and figure out what were the features more applicable to me, but really differentiate the basic from the premium to understand why I should pay more and what additional features I get. So a prime example of upselling as well. So those are a couple of ways you could use A+ content, but really what you'll see here is the example I'm sharing is basically an example of A+ content, the comparison chart module. So if you're not using the comparison chart module and you have more than one product in your range, you must take a look at your A+ content and look at how you can adjust that, because what happens is the customer can click on this and go to a different product as well. So you're starting to interlink the product pages as well. Another way that you can increase spend would be through pack sizes. So this is often a more obvious one, I would say, in the sense that, okay, a customer might come on and they want to buy a pack. Here on this product page, they can only buy one pack. But actually, the customer might not want one pack. And so if you give them a selection, and they might think about increasing and saying, okay, well, you've only got one product, one in quantity. I'm going to buy two. I'm just going to add 3 to the shopping cart. Okay, that's fine. Or you could change it. You could change it like this example here, which is saying you could buy a pack of 1, a pack of 2, pack of 3. And then you're incentivizing the customer to buy more. Because often what you're doing is you're giving an additional discount. So the customer buys 1, they're going to pay more than if they buy 3. And so that then helps the customer, instead of them saying, well, actually, I'll just go with the 1 pack for now. They might then see that incentive and then buy the 3 pack. So whilst you could just have, as I said, 1 pack and the customer adds more than 1 to the cart, this is a way of incentivizing the customer to actually go ahead and purchase the 3, 4, 5, 6. We also have product images. So of course, with a product image, the main product image needs to be of the product on a plain white background, and that is set. And those are the Amazon rules. Some sellers get away with having additional images, but what Amazon says is it has to be only of the product on a plain white background. Now, when it comes to secondary images, you can start playing around with them. You can start showing a portfolio of your products. And this is a great example of, and as you can see this theme of vitamins, I was clearly doing a shot to boost my immunity. But here with these images and this product it's a product for vitamin D3, right? So it's a product here on the left. But actually in this product image, the seller is actually showing, okay, but we also do omega-3, we do vitamin B12, and we do multivitamins as well. So let's say this is a seller that might not have access to A+, because I know all of you might be sitting there thinking, well, I don't have access to A+, I don't have a trademark, it's not a feature available to me. Every seller has access to images. So you could be more creative with your product images and start highlighting those additional products. Just make sure that you're careful with how you do that, because you don't want it in, as I say, in the main image, for example, where the customer thinks they're going to receive all of those. You need to make sure that it is very clear to the customer what they're buying. But here is a fantastic way. But also you've got to think about the customer, the way the customer shops on Amazon, if they're shopping on mobile, if they're shopping on desktop, and how they shop. Every customer shops differently. I always find it interesting, and I speak to colleagues, I speak to friends, and I always like to see how they shop on Amazon, because it's always different. Some browse more through images, some scroll down and go to A+ content. I browse completely different because I've been working with Amazon for over 14 years, so I know how it all works, and I see it through a different pair of different lenses. But it's always important. So even if you have A+ content as well, think about that. One customer might look at your A+ content, one customer might look at your image, your product image. So think about how you can group together your wider portfolio in a secondary image. Then we come to brand stores. Now, brand stores is the ultimate place, really. where you can create and highlight your wider portfolio. And you can do that in many different ways. With the product detail page, you're quite restricted in what you can do. It's almost like A+ content comparison chart and the product images. But what you can do is you can play around here more with the brand stores. Now, some brand stores get a lot of traffic, some don't necessarily. It really depends if you're using your brand store. For example, you're sharing your URL externally with external traffic, driving external traffic onto Amazon, or it might be that you've got sponsored brands running. But this is a fantastic way to highlight your different products. And you can do that solely by the homepage. So having your range of products, like for example here, where you've got your products listed on the main page, or you could also look into having subcategory pages as well. And so you can use that URL and then you can link different URLs to different sponsored brands. So it might be that you want to, for example, here you've got the home page, you've got a couple of products highlighted on the home page, the hero products. But actually, if you go to, they have additional subcategory pages like weight management, muscle power, that highlight that, okay, we do different products in the range. And so the way you can think about your menu bar as in almost it's a way to highlight your products. So let's use the vitamins as an example as well. The customer clicks on, comes to the brand store, they're looking for vitamin D. Maybe they can see the full portfolio of products on the brand store on the homepage. Or maybe they go and look at the menu bar. You know, as I said, the customer looks at things, every customer looks at things differently. So if you can make sure that you have all of those captured, chances are you've got a higher chance of increasing that customer spend. So you might then want to have, at the top, you might then want to have a subcategory page for vitamin D, a subcategory page for vitamin C, a subcategory page for vitamin B12, and so on, if you get my gist. So it's about playing that. It all depends on your product range as to how you manage that as well, because you're going to find some product ranges, in order for you to increase customer spend, it might be mainly through upselling. Let's say you sell printers. The customer's not going to buy 2 printers. The customer's not going to buy 1 basic printer and 1 premium printer, but they're more likely going to upsell from the basic to the premium. With vitamins as an example, the customers might more likely to, they can't really upsell because it's vitamin C that you've only got, let's say, 1 vitamin C in the range, but they could cross-sell. They might end up buying the vitamin C and the vitamin B12. And for those that are thinking, well, actually, I don't have loads of products in my range, well, actually, try and increase that spend on that one product that you have. So there's different ways in which you can increase customer spend, as I mentioned, depending on your category and your type of product and what you're selling. So then we move on to sponsored ads. And when I'm talking about sponsored ads, I'm really talking about sponsored brands and basically the space that you have, not only for your headline text and your logo on the left side, you can then highlight those 3 products. Now, I always say, I often look at sponsored brands, and sometimes I don't see much thought necessarily go into these 3 products, as in how they connect with one another in the sense of this whole cross-selling that I was talking about, as in sometimes, you know, what you want is a customer that might be interested. Here is an example, again, that they're interested in, it came up for vitamin D, for example. But then they could see, oh, actually, I could buy the B12 and the magnesium oil spray. So you're starting to highlight that there are different products available to the customer. So that's another way in which you can cross-sell. And that's fantastic because that comes up in search results. That comes up in the prime real estate at the top of search results, well, most of the time. So it's thinking again about doing that, not only having that comparison chart, not only doing that on the brand store, it's about taking every opportunity that you can to highlight your wider portfolio. And here is an example of almost what not to do. And I'm sorry if this company is looking at this, but there's this missed space here. You know, you could have all the different products, you could have the different colorways or different sizes. It could be adult and kids, or it could be the towel, it could be the jacket. But they're really missing out on opportunity here. to really cross-sell. So the customer, they might just be directing the customer to the brand store, but sometimes, you know, the customer is going to play it differently. Sometimes a customer is going to click here. Sometimes a customer is going to click on the additional products as well. Every customer browses differently. Yes, you can influence it more by giving them limited options, but I say open up those options and let the customer decide. Another way would be through promotions. So promotions here. Now, promotions on some product pages, promotions come up. Amazon's playing around with this. Sometimes it's really visible, this promotion message. And here you've got an orange badge on the product page. But other times, all of a sudden, it disappears. So Amazon's always playing around with this. So I wouldn't be too reliant on this. But this is another way that you can bring products in. So here is an example where you can save 20% when you purchase one or more on the qualifying items offered by this brand. And so it saved 20% on turmeric when you buy vitamin C. So this brand is highlighting that they do turmeric and also vitamin C. I wouldn't have known that necessarily because on the A+ page, it didn't show me that. Neither did it on the product images, but it did here. So luckily, they've captured that. Otherwise, I'd have thought that this brand just solely does vitamin C. So you can play that with your promotions as well, bringing in different products. Buy X, get X% off Y. Another thing is packaging. Now, this is a bit bigger because packaging is I mean, it's not something you can quickly tweak, for example. But I've got here cheese strings. Cheese string seems to be a hit with my daughter since moving back to the UK. And so we are constantly purchasing cheese strings. But I was looking at the packaging here and I was trying to find an example where a brand, I was looking through the fridge and looking through the cupboards, trying to find out an example of a product where they're introducing other products within the range. And this was a prime example where they're highlighting different products. And actually, if you go onto their website, they're doing that. They're introducing these cheese strings, the yollies. But this is something that you need to think about more from a production side of things, as in, could you have on your packaging, highlight other products that you sell? It could be an opportunity. Now, you're not giving prices. You're not saying, come to our website for this. You're just simply highlighting that you're more than a one product company, for example. And this is an example here that you could play around with packaging. Now, I see sometimes businesses doing that with inserts, or it might be that you have like a leaflet within your product packaging. You can do that as well. Just make sure that if you're doing anything when it comes to inserts or anything, when it comes to sending that to Amazon, just make sure that everything you're doing adheres to Amazon's terms of service, because the last thing that you want is that you've kind of completely put all your range on an insert, for example, and you ended up giving a discount. If the customer buys X, then you get a discount on Y and driving them to your website. That's not what I'm saying there. Be careful. Make sure you adhere to Amazon's terms of service, but start highlighting images that you sell more than one product. The last two then are variations. So you're probably already familiar with variations. For those that have multiple products or different sizes, different colorways, you've probably got a variation. You might also want to do this, and we've got this here with this product of an item where the customer might cross-sell. The customer might, these are cocktail gummies, alcoholic gummies. And so the customer might come on here, and instead of increasing the amount that they want of the vodka and gin cocktail gummies, they might be like, oh, well, I'm going to go for the vodka and gin. I'm going to go for the rum and Prosecco. In fact, I'm going to go for all of them because I'm going to try every different flavor out. And instead of the customer only coming onto the one page, you could have ended up making a purchase for all six as the customer decides that they've got a party and they want to try different flavors. Another example here with a variation, again, is where this seller is highlighting that they do the shampoo, a revitalizing shampoo, a revitalizing conditioner, and also the balm. So if you were thinking about, oh, well, I need some shampoo for my hair, want to revitalize it, give it some volume, you then see, oh, actually, I might as well buy conditioner and balm from this this seller as well to keep it all in the range and see how I get on. Now, just again, I'm always cautious. Just make sure that you are careful with the variations that you create, and that they do complement one another and adhere to Amazon's T's and C's, because the last thing that you want to do is do something that goes against the grain and what you should be doing. And lastly would be bundles. So now, when we're talking about bundles, at the moment, really, I'm talking about putting everything in the one, because at the moment in the UK, Europe, you can't do virtual bundles. So very much, which that will be hopefully coming soon, and I'll come on to that shortly. But that's just then highlighting, okay, well, instead of me selling resistance bands for £5, I know that there's people out there that want resistance bands that might want other, like what's it called, speed agility, and I know that I've got a few of these things. I've got the ladder, I've got the parachute and all of that for my speed training. But actually seeing it all together in a pack makes me think, oh, actually it makes sense to go with that, instead of then thinking about, well, actually I only need the 1, 2 or 3. You're highlighting, well, actually you can have all of these for X amount of price. So instead of then the customer just going and buying those resistance bands, they then end up buying more from you. But the main point here is they end up buying more in terms of the overall sales value that they pay. So instead of the £5 resistance bands and maybe buying the ladder as well for £15, they've ended up spending nearly £100 because they think, well, actually, perhaps I need X, Y, and Z. You're highlighting that maybe if they want to do working on their speed for running, that they might end up wanting to buy all these different products as well. Now, I mentioned virtual bundles. Now, virtual bundles is something that's available to vendors in the UK and Europe. And sometimes vendors are seeing Amazon create these without them even realizing. But here is an example where you can get a lint roller and a spray bottle. And what happens is Amazon is actually, these items are 2 separate items. So you add them to your cart, you're effectively adding 2 ASINs to the cart as a customer, and Amazon will pick 2 separate products. But when the customer's purchasing the item here, it effectively looks like one. So it's a great way to bring products together and not have to pre-bundle them. Because when you pre-bundle them, like, for example, this bundle before, you have to send it all in together, which actually you don't want, because you're then locking some inventory, like your resistance bands, into these bundles. With virtual bundles, they're better because you've got the resistance bands that could come with the ladder, or don't have to come with the ladder, for example. And that gives you opportunity to play more with your inventory. Now, virtual bundles is something that we've seen appear in the US for some sellers, not for all. So as we know, after Amazon have tested everything in the US, usually they remember that we're here in Europe waiting for all these tools to come over. So hopefully it will be something to come across shortly, because that would be a fantastic win in order to bring products together that complement one another. As I mentioned here, this is just an example where it appears as 2 separate products within checkout. Now, one final thing to just highlight here as a summary is if you're trying to increase customer spend, increase quantity, cross-sell or upsell, the most important factor really is that you have customer trust, because you want the customer to trust you in order for them to purchase more of your product. And that comes with brand confidence. And that is through, maybe they've purchased a product from you before and they had a fantastic customer experience. You have positive seller feedback. You've got positive customer reviews. You offer outstanding customer service. And it's all about that, because a customer is not going to want to purchase loads of products from your brand if they don't have that trust and feel that loyalty. So it's really important that you're offering amazing customer service and you have outstanding feedback, because that will really boost the customer wanting to purchase more from you. And lastly, just a couple of things coming to Europe. Videos. So some of you sellers in Europe might have access to videos. It's been a big feature in the US for a long time, but recently in the US they added multiple videos. So you'll see here that you can have more than one video showing in your image gallery. So that's something exciting to come. And on a video, again, like the images, at the end of the video, you could show your wider product portfolio as well. And then Amazon Posts, which I won't come on to because I actually noticed that we covered that off before. So I just wanted to get you excited about possibly things that could be coming to the UK and Europe.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We do have a question by Nicola. We noticed in the past few days there are no more frequent bought together on Amazon USA. Looks like Amazon removed that. Don't know about EU markets. Do you have anything to comment?
I'm not sure, to be honest. We've seen a lot of things happening in the last couple of days. We've seen, for example, Vine enrollment has been disabled. Coupons have been disabled, new setup coupons. Amazon seem to be disabling a lot of these additional features because Amazon are just realizing that it's all about essentials. So if you're seeing features removed, we believe it's more temporary. We're seeing it completely changing. They're saying that things could possibly go back to normal. They seem to have this date of the 5th of April, but there's such a degree of uncertainty at the moment. Who knows for how long, what features are going to be disabled? If not, are there going to be even more features that Amazon disable over the next few days?
Perfect. One more quick question. There is an opportunity. Is there opportunity to set up a tool when a person is going to buy a product to suggest another one related? So the person is asking for automatization or something.
Yeah, unfortunately not. It would be fantastic if we could highlight that and have any influence over Amazon's widgets on the detail page, but unfortunately not. So the only real way is through the examples I shared with you today.
And this woman, this person was commenting, I think, on the bundle, virtual bundle, where you showed a bottle and a roller. Maybe this one. He says that probably it's violating Amazon's policy.
This is actually a bundle that Amazon created themselves on the vendor side. So this was one that wasn't actually created by the brand themselves. So we're seeing Amazon do that and decide what they want to bundle, probably based on data that they see and check out. Okay,
thank you very much, Karina. And we have a trophy for you,
Yay!
which we will send you by post once we are certain that you can receive it by post. You couldn't get it. Yeah, you couldn't get it in Prague in person, but you will get it by post maybe in 2 months or something.
Oh, fantastic. You can go on my windowsill. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now,
thank you, everyone, for listening. Take care. Bye.
We will get Emma now. Okay. Hello, Emma.
Hello.
So, thank you for waiting. Next guest is copywriter. Already someone was asking for your email, and I gave them your website address. So there is if you need help with copywriting, contact Emma. And you have a lot of experience in writing, right? So you know what you're talking about. And
I hope so.
I hope so.
No, I feel pretty confident about what I'm talking about. And, I think that a time like this, when there is so much uncertainty, so much is changing, it's a really great time to actually take a step back and look at everything that you're doing already and see where you might be able to make some changes so that when things begin to go back to normal, you'll be ready to capitalize on that. Or I guess normal might not be the right word, but when things eventually start to subside a little bit.
Perfect. So we're ready for your presentation. You can make it full screen and we'll start it.
Awesome. So I'm going to be talking about how to unlock the urge to buy, how to write Amazon listings that get people to click add to cart. And while this says Amazon listings and all of the examples that I'm going to be giving are very Amazon focused, these are really tips that you can use with any type of writing or even communication that you're doing. So whether you're thinking about sending out an email to your community during this time of uncertainty and a lot of changes, or you are wanting to communicate more effectively with your team, whatever that goal is, you'll be able to achieve it better by practicing some of these different things that we're going to be talking about. So the goal is to convert more of the traffic that you already have. So you want to get everybody looking like that really eager and hungry dog on the left and less like the oblivious and not so interested dog on the right. So my name's Emma Schermer-Tamir. I'm the co-founder of Marketing by Emma. I got my start in marketing writing outside of e-commerce and Amazon, and got more specifically into the Amazon field a little bit over 3 years ago. And since then, we've worked with over 700 businesses from all over the world, helping them grow their businesses and launch their brands through Amazon and through other e-commerce channels. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of what makes good marketing writing, we need to remember that we really have to be driving traffic if we're going to be having an opportunity to even convert anybody. Because if nobody's looking at your page, then it doesn't matter how beautifully written anything is. And so when we're talking about Amazon, we obviously know that that's the A9 algorithm. So here is an example of something that you really want to avoid at all costs. Now, of course, given the current state of things, pretty much all of these survival type tools, no matter how poorly they were written, sold out. But that shouldn't be taken as an example of what to do during normal times. And I feel fairly certain that regardless of the fact that they may have had some temporary success, it's not going to be a long-term healthy brand, especially if they're following these sorts of tactics that they're using. I wouldn't necessarily say tactics in a good sense though. So if you see this, unique birthday gifts for men, dad, husband, it's actually not until the 9th word that you even begin to see what this product is. And then if you go in I kind of composited 2 images here. And so you see what this would look like on mobile. And so you see that there's actually, when it gets cut off by mobile, you really have almost zero idea what this product is, other than the fact that this Sulcata brand thinks that this would be a unique birthday gift for different versions of how you can refer to a male in your life. And it doesn't really get any better when you dig into the bullets. This is the first bullet point. And in my opinion, and what I've seen work so often for so many sellers, is your first bullet should be very focused on the main problem that your product is solving and communicating those key benefits. Instead, they've chosen to pack in a lot of different keywords so that it reads in a very confusing way, but it's also doing nothing, again, to explain to me what this product is whatsoever. So we know that this is a great gift. If you want to take the gift route with any of the copy in your listing, that's not necessarily a bad thing to do, but at least switch it out and make it relevant to the particular season rather than packing in every single gift giving opportunity into your listing and then just keeping it static all year round. It's making it a lot bulkier than what it needs to be. And let's face it, nobody is going to be searching for Valentine's Day gifts in March. So it's just not very relevant. And there's not even going to be much search volume around that, which is what I wanted to get to next. Is it's not just that you want to be cautious about using too many keywords, but you want to make sure that you're using the right keywords in your copy, because these are keywords that your customers are actually going to see. So if you are using keywords that are not relevant, keywords that are misspelled, keywords that are just really awkward language, all of those things are going to create potential negative experiences with your customers that may either confuse them, may make them start to lose a little bit of trust, may make them feel totally overwhelmed and bored and then distracted and start looking at some YouTube video that they remembered that they needed to watch. Whatever the case may be, you want to avoid that. So being really thoughtful about what are the words that are very specific to the product you're using, and then incorporating those keywords in a way that's very natural so that it reads like a normal sentence would wherever it may be. So you're still getting that really valuable SEO that you need, but you're not overkilling to the point of where you are turning away customers. Because one of the metrics that Amazon uses when they're thinking about rank isn't purely just, is the keyword in there, but are people purchasing based on those keywords? So the relevancy is so important. So you need to make sure that you're very specific about the keywords that you want to be focusing on, and then using those, and then working in the other ones into the back end if you can. So the next thing to think about is pick up the slack, as I like to say. So in other words, how can you use your images to help to push that sale forward? There are all sorts of buyers. So there are people that are going to look at your listing with a microscope, and there are also people that are very visual purchasers. And then what I would argue is a big bulk of the in-between people that they're skimmers, but they're also looking for specific things, or they can be easily swayed to making a decision. And so the more that you can take advantage of the real estate that you're given, the higher likelihood that you're going to be able to make that purchase happen. So there are always two people in every picture, the photographer and the viewer. And in this case, and the reason why I included this quote is because in this particular situation on Amazon, you are the photographer and your customers are the viewer. And so often I see Amazon sellers who are allowing their customers to call the shots about what their photos are telling them. And that is a huge mistake. And hopefully these examples will show you that a little bit better. So here is an example of KitchenAid. They're a huge and very successful brand. They have all of these different lifestyle images that are showing what I would imagine to be different things that you can create with your KitchenAid appliance. However, what's very confusing here, and what may even lead to potential returns, is that the lower left-hand side picture shows a spiralizer. So for people that are trying to do low-carb diets and they want to make vegetable noodles, this is showing or suggesting that this set may even come with a spiralizer. However, I looked through this listing thoroughly, and I saw no reference whatsoever to the fact that this came with a spiralizer. So not only is this image misleading, but it's also, if I wasn't so knowledgeable about low-carb noodles, then I might not even know what this is to begin with, so it would be just a waste of a picture. However, if I incorporated a little bit of text to demonstrate that this is a great attachment that you can purchase separately, then you're having a chance to upsell a little bit, but you're also transforming this not simply into an appliance where you can make a lot of really indulgent foods like cupcakes and pies, but it can also be an indispensable tool for your daily healthy living, not purely making a bunch of guilty pleasure treats. So here's another example. If you look at this picture, you might think of a trip that your family was, in this case now, maybe planning on taking and now had to cancel. So maybe you're feeling a little bit sad about this. Or maybe you look at this picture and you're reminiscing about a trip that you took a year ago and what a great time it was. Or perhaps you're just in awe of the beautiful scenery. Whatever it is, every single one of us that's looking at this picture is going to get something different from it. And so as the seller, you want to make sure that you're really controlling the message and not giving anybody an opportunity to read into this anything other than what it is that you're trying to sell. So in this case, let's just imagine for a moment, if you look at the hands of some of the people walking in this picture, you will see a couple of people carrying water bottles. So what if there was a little bit of text here that said something about stay hydrated on your next adventure? So then instantly, even though that may not have been where my eyes went, I know exactly what this photo is trying to tell me. But without that text, we're all left to our own devices to try to interpret what this image means. So here is a great example of this very thing that I'm talking about. It's actually a very similarly composed image. In this case, it's Cliff Bar. And you'll see that the focus of this image is really also directed towards the beautiful scenery. The Cliff Bar is hardly in the image at all. And it's only with this text that we get the insight into what this picture is trying to tell us. And without that text, we would be left drawing our own conclusions. Many of us probably wouldn't see that Cliff Bar at all, and maybe we would just start daydreaming again about some far off trip that we're excited about or what have you, and getting totally distracted from a good opportunity to get people excited to purchase this product. So how do you use words to supercharge your photos? Firstly, use minimum words for maximum impact. I know that it can be really tempting to create those infographics that have been very trendy for a while, where you have a picture of your product and then a lot of little pictures all around it. And each little picture has its own separate caption, and it's one of those things that you need to zoom in, even if you're on a desktop computer and you still can't really read what it's saying. Don't do that. It's making customers work too hard, and most people are not going to take that effort, whether they're on their phones or on their computers. So give yourself the highest likelihood of communicating your message by really using as few words as possible and being really clear about what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your text. So whether it's emphasizing the key benefit of your product, whether it's evoking some emotion to get people just that extra little bit more excited that makes them want to click add to cart, or even helping to clarify a point of confusion, because sometimes text in and of itself can be difficult to fully explain something. But when you're able to combine imagery and text together, it can be far more powerful. And so thinking about how you can create those synergies with your imagery and your text to really clearly explain what your product is, as well as, again, helping to push that sale forward. And of course, also controlling the message so that you're not allowing your customers to interpret what it is that you're trying to say with that picture. Next, mind your P's and Q's. Attention to detail is of utmost importance when you want to look good. In this case, we are going to be talking about grammar, spelling, all of those sort of unglamorous, but really important things anytime that you're putting anything on the internet. Karina, before this, was talking about trust, and this is really one of the main reasons why your spelling and your grammar is so important. Because if you're not putting that thought and that time and that little extra bit of effort to make sure that things are spelled properly and that there's no awkward phrasing or weird grammar, then you are creating an opportunity to break that trust with your customers, because it might seem to them that you are not really caring that much about how you present yourself online. It may suggest that you are not really the high quality that you're trying to say that you are. It could also make people skeptical about if you're even legitimate, because let's say that you're selling a product that either is topical or ingested and it has spelling mistakes. I might feel uncomfortable about purchasing something like that, because how can I trust that it's even legitimate? How do I know that it's not a counterfeit, or that it doesn't actually meet those standards that it's supposed to meet? So being really thoughtful about all of this is very important. And it's easy for a lot of people to say, oh, well, nobody reads anymore, so why bother? And it's important to remember that, firstly, that's not true. But secondly, of the people that do read, they are going to be the most critical of these kinds of errors. And you don't want to only appeal to one type of buyer. You want to make sure that whatever kind of buying habits a customer has, that you're helping to meet those needs and get them excited. And so thinking about this is so important. So let's take a look at this example. Right off the bat, they have just a lack of a space. They also have remove dirt and mud from puppies' hands and feet. Puppies, from my knowledge, don't have hands or feet. We call them paws. So that's confusing and a little bit weird. It's also talking about how this is somehow going to remove toe inflammation, but doing so in a way that's very confusing. And then lastly, they have this attempt that I would really strongly encourage you not to do. It's a cheap trick that customers know better. I don't think that it works unless it's legitimate, and most people can look at this and see that it's not legitimate. And so what I'm talking about is, I can't read it fully because I have a little bit of the streaming platform that we're using is blocking it, but it's essentially talking about donating a percentage of sales to helping stray animals. And it's so vague and it's so poorly worded that it's obvious that there's no money that's getting donated to any animals anywhere. And if I saw that, and was seriously looking at purchasing this rotatable paw cleaner, I would feel very skeptical, and like this seller was trying to manipulate me, and nobody wants to be manipulated, so don't do it. Double, triple, quadruple check. Read it out loud. One of the easiest things that you can do to get a little bit of distance and catch some of those errors is to just read your work out loud to yourself. A lot of times when we're reading in our minds, we will automatically correct things without even realizing it. And so by reading it out loud, it forces you to slow down a little bit. And as a result, you'll be more able to catch those mistakes. Thinking, does it make sense? And let's take a step back from just talking purely about poor grammar, spelling, and things like that. But are you using language that your customers are going to understand? If you're selling a very technical product, is it possible that you're using overly technical jargon that the average person wouldn't understand? Or alternatively, are you selling a very professional product that by not using that professional language, people would be suspect in thinking of whether you are in fact the best supplier for that particular product? So being really clear about who your customers are so that you're able to tailor that language specifically to what they would be looking for and expecting and able to relate to. So a more specific example of that could be, let's say that you sell yoga products. So on one extreme, you could have a very basic yoga product that would be for somebody of all levels, from someone that's suddenly stuck at home and wanting to try their first Zoom yoga class, or somebody that has been practicing yoga for 20 years and would like to set up a yoga studio now that they have the time to do so in their homes. And so the beginner person, if you're using a lot of yoga specific language, they may feel like this is not the product for them. They're confused, they're new, they want to be welcomed in, and they want to feel a part of this, not like they're in totally over their heads and this was a huge mistake and why did they even think that they could do yoga in their first place. However, if somebody is looking for some more advanced yoga supports or tools or equipment, and it's all very basic language that's not referring to maybe the specific poses that person is trying to achieve, then they would wonder whether this is really the best product for them. And then lastly, don't be afraid to use tools. There are lots of free tools out there. Grammarly, Google Docs has built-in word processing tools. Pretty much all of them have a basic spell check and grammar check function. So just be sure to run those before putting anything out there into the internet. Put your customers first. So these are two examples. We'll look at them side by side. The e.l.f. primer is a dupe for this Tatcha primer. The e.l.f. primer is $8. The Tatcha primer, I believe, is $52. So there's a huge difference. All over the internet, you can see that they perform very similarly. So essentially, Tatcha is in the position of having to justify to us why they are the superior product to e.l.f. And I would argue that you need to do that by really being clear about what customers want to know and making sure that you're addressing those concerns. And we'll see who does it better. So I'm not trying to fool you or anything. The left-hand side is e.l.f., the right-hand side is Tatcha. And just automatically, when you look at these, which one is easier to find your bearings with? e.l.f. on the left-hand side is using the all caps beginnings of their bullets. And that is a really small, quick change that you can make to your bullets that is very customer friendly. Because if you're looking at these two blocks of text, the one on the left-hand side with the all caps headers is helping to guide me through these bullets, so that if I have a specific detail that I must know, I know where to find it far faster and easier than the right-hand side. And again, with attention so limited and so fleeting, you want to make sure that you are not giving any opportunities for that to wander. And if I need to put forth extra effort to find those details, there's a good chance that I'm going elsewhere. So a lot of the information is actually the same between these two, but e.l.f. makes it much easier to find that information and is much more customer centric in that way. But they also take it a step further in really defining why this product is so great. And Tatcha doesn't do that at all. But also the main differentiator between Tatcha and e.l.f. is some of Tatcha's really luxury ingredients. They have 2 types of pearl, an anti-aging superfood trinity. They're a very luxury Japanese brand, and they are not utilizing what makes them special in a way that helps them stand out. So if I'm weighing one against the other, and not only is Tatcha not justifying why they're more expensive, but e.l.f. is doing a better job of convincing me why they're the best product, it's almost there's no competition. This is Tatcha's description. This is e.l.f.'s description. It is a beautifully done EBC or A+ content. They are using social proof. They're doing a great job of combining imagery and text together without overdoing it. They're creating very clear, descriptive text that is communicating exactly what this product does and why it's so great, and they make you want it, and Tatcha's does not. So being really clear about what are your customers' main criteria for purchasing, making that very, very clear, and also helping them to navigate the listing in a way that they're going to be able to find the information that they want and need in order to make those decisions. So next, flip-flop your features. Don't tell them what it is, but rather why they need it. So on the surface, you might look at this listing and think, okay, it looks pretty good. They've got some of those all caps bullets, although there's some inconsistencies there, which is, in my mind, a lack of attention to detail that's a little bit odd and makes it read sort of weird. Also, oddly, the image of this makes me think that this is a donut flavored creamer, but it's actually a vanilla sweet creamer. So if I was not reading this carefully, I may find myself very disappointed when I go to make my coffee in the morning and discover that this is not a donut flavor. So I would have chosen to rethink their packaging imagery, but it's something to be mindful of when you are creating all of that collateral for your brand. So let's look at the text a little bit more and dig in and see whether they're doing a good job of really clearly communicating their benefits. Premium grass-fed ingredients, including grass-fed collagen, butter. Awesome. Why is grass-fed so important? Why should I want to choose grass-fed over non-grass-fed, more conventional ingredients? They're not telling me that. And automatically, by being grass-fed, and they also say premium, we know that that's going to come with a premium price tag. So similarly to Tatcha, they're needing to communicate what it is that they're giving me that justifies spending more, maybe even for less, for something. And if they would do a better job of this, then the price may not even be a factor. But because they're not doing that, then I'm not given the information to be able to make those decisions, and I might have to fall back on other sorts of metrics like price or like reviews or other bloggers that are telling me what to purchase. The next bullet is very similar. Clean MCT oil, highly ketogenic C8 medium chain triglycerides. I don't know what a lot of those things mean. And perhaps if I am really into the keto diet, that might mean a little bit more. But I would argue that even people that are very familiar with the keto diet would be confused about what clean MCT oil means. So they have all of these really interesting proprietary ingredients, clean MCT oil. They also have this sweetened with sucralose, which interestingly is a sweetener that they have created, and they sell that separately. But they're not doing anything to tell me why this is special or why I should purchase this or what problems this solves. For example, with the sucralose, this special sweetener that they have, is it maybe going to solve that terrible bitter aftertaste that I experience every time that I eat something sweetened with stevia? Or perhaps it doesn't have the same stomach upsetting properties that sugar alcohols create. So they have an opportunity here to, again, really set themselves apart. And instead, they're using a lot of fancy sounding language to try and make themselves seem elite when really all they're doing is passing up on a sales opportunity. Now, the fourth bullet, feel full and increase energy. That seems like it could be a good benefit, but I would argue that it's still not going all the way there. So when you're thinking about why somebody would purchase a keto creamer, most likely this is something that they're mixing in with their morning coffee, and they're probably trying to do some sort of fasting. And so they want to make sure that they are going to be able to get through a period of their day without having to think about food, worry about food, feel hunger pains, get distracted. So feel full and increase energy. On the surface, that's great. But I would argue that they could say something a little bit more to make that extra bit more compelling that their competitors are also not doing, which is maybe writing something like, you won't even think about food. Because what's the scariest thing when people are dieting? Constantly they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. It's going to be a constant battle with my willpower. And what if they took this opportunity to say, there's no struggle here. You just won't even be thinking about food. That is really at the heart of what people are looking for. And by doing that, they would really set themselves apart in a special way. So let's look at the EBC. They're not really doing much better. They're, again, telling me grass-fed. They're pointing out all these great flavors. The flavor they show is not even the same flavor as what is in the bullets. They mentioned 3 delicious flavors, but as CARINA was talking about, this would be a great opportunity to cross-promote all 3 of their flavors so that even if the sweet cream wasn't the flavor for me, I'd be able to see that they have probably like cappuccino or original. Okay, so maybe that's just unflavored. Anyway, there are 3 flavors. What those are, they're not telling us. They're not giving us that opportunity. They're really not doing anything to set themselves apart or explain to us why this creamer is the creamer that we should use, whether we are doing a keto diet or not. And then they've done this really lazy thing with their A+ content where whenever they must have received brand registry, they essentially copy and pasted their old original HTML description into the bottom part of their A+ content. And so rather than really taking advantage of the ability to weave in text and imagery together to create a compelling story, they've created this very jagged and not user-friendly approach to how they're handling things. So find the benefit. Why does it matter? keep asking why. So in the case of feel fuller longer, ask, why does that matter? Why would it matter to feel fuller longer? And keep asking why until you feel really clear that that is the problem that you're solving. That is the winning benefit that's going to set you apart. And then it's not to disregard the features, but then to use the features to support your claims so that you're not making these empty statements of these are the benefits and just take my word from it, but these are the benefits and here's why you can expect these benefits. So if we're talking about the keto creamer and talking about the benefits of using grass-fed butter and collagen, so you speak about those benefits and then you explain why that happens and why you chose to have the grass-fed ingredients rather than conventional ingredients. And then lastly is dive deep. So convert like crazy by asking the right questions. Get curious about your customers. So think about, who are your customers? What are their interests beyond just this one product? What other products are they using in their lives? How are they using your product in tandem with other products that they have? Identify your competitor edge. Build a loyal customer base and a brand. So the more that you can start training yourself to get really curious and to start asking lots and lots of questions, the better job that you'll be able to not only communicate more effectively about your benefits and the problems that you're solving, but you'll also be able to really solidify your competitive edge and stand out from all of the other products that are out there. Because one of the challenges with selling on Amazon is that you have so many products, and when you're on the search results page, they all look the same. So your job is to figure out, how can you be different? And then how can you communicate that? So it's not even people trying to decide between 3 different products that all look exactly the same and clicking back and forth to try to figure out what the difference is, but you just blow them away with how much you understand what they're looking for. You make it easy for them to get that information, and they don't even want to look at the other products because this is clearly the one for them. So if you don't know how to do that, I have a little free workshop that you can download. You can even just hold your phone up and scan it, and it'll take you right to that worksheet. And it just has a lot of questions that you can start asking. So when you're maybe have a little bit of extra time on your hands right now, it could be a good opportunity to start to think about who your customers are, what they care about, and how you can really communicate with them in a more effective way, build your brand, expand your product range. There's just so much that you can discover by getting really curious and asking those questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. I just shared your link to Euro 20. We have a question for you from Stefano. Stefano, what do you advise, long copy or short copy in the bullet points?
I would suggest something a little bit more in between. So not straight down the line of 250 characters, for example. I like to shoot around the 150 to 200 characters per bullet range. If we're talking sort of finite numbers, that seems to be a good place where you can communicate the key information while also not overwhelming the customers. It used to be really popular to max out whatever your character allowance was depending upon your category. So if you were allowed 500 characters per bullet, then you were writing 500 characters. There seems to be no benefit to doing that. And I would argue that, in fact, there is a lot of harm that you can create by making overly long bullets, because they are just too much for customers to really wrap their minds around. They're very off-putting. And if I have a specific detail that I want and you're making me fish around to try to find that, it's very challenging. So instead, thinking about what are the 5 most important details that you, or sort of arguments for why your product is the best, that you want to make sure to communicate, and not trying to have to fit every single thing in. People, if they don't find it in the bullets, but they're intrigued or excited enough, they know that there are other places that they can look. And so it's more about communicating what's most important there in a really compelling way so that you're getting them excited, you're building interest, or you're at least wanting to make them look a little bit harder to find additional information.
Perfect. Another question from Stefano. What are the main split tests that you are running when you work on the product page? And what is the best way to use A+ content?
So as far as we don't run split tests, I do have clients that run their own split tests. Amazon recently opened up the ability for sellers to be split testing their A+ content. I know what a lot of people are choosing to do with that is to compare really sparse text A+ versus something that has a little bit more text in it to see how people respond better to. But it seems like that is still something that not a ton of people have been taking advantage of yet. With A+ content, you really want to think about, this is your chance to use text and imagery together, and you don't want to be too strong in one direction or the other. So if you have really great pictures, but not a lot of text to help articulate why you're including those pictures, or alternatively, if you're just having a bunch of text, firstly, it's going to format and look very weird, but also it's going back to the same problem that we spoke about with the bullets, where you don't want to overwhelm people with so much information. So thinking about what it is that makes that you would be able to really highlight your product in a convincing, compelling way in A+, and then do that. Always making sure to incorporate some lifestyle images. If you have some images with people in them, those are even better. Research shows that we like photos that have people in them, even just like a hand, for example. We pay closer attention to them. And so using even just little tricks like that is really helpful. And then it's also a chance for you to communicate some about your brand. So it's not always necessary. If you don't have a great story, don't just make up a story. But if you do have a story that would be compelling to customers, then that's an opportunity for you to share it.
Thank you, Emma. We're running out of time. I see a few more questions, which maybe you can jump in after this call to the comments and answer them. There is, well, one guy said that using pipes in the title is a no-go. I think he's talking about these pipes. And then he was also asking what is the best tip to optimize on mobile. And there are some more questions.
Okay.
So maybe you can just chat with people.
I'd be happy to do that.
And thank you very much. I will bring Jeff now. Thank you, Emma.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I forgot. Emma, I forgot.
Yes.
Because I have to give you a trophy. So you also will get a trophy, and we will send you to your home once everything calms down, and we can be sure that it arrives to your home. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Jeff, hello.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining.
So our Amazon Facebook specialists. So you created two softwares, Zone Tracker and AIM-Z-Jet. They are very unique as far as I remember. I don't think you have any kind of competitors or similar softwares. And you are a data-driven guy. This I remember it. You always show the numbers. So we look forward to your presentation. Let me share your screen. We can see perfectly your screen, I think. And you're welcome to start.
All right. Yeah, data-driven. That's going to be my perspective of the presentation of trying to show you across a variety of what different brands are doing. I know it's common in Facebook groups, YouTube videos for us to see one type of approach or maybe a couple of approaches. I see what's working successfully across different types of brands. So this is going to be a mix of from beginner and advanced level, but so you kind of see the variety. So if you're advanced, see what some of the even more advanced brands are doing. If you're a beginner, you could see the more variety to choose what fits your brand better. So first, let's start with a quiz. I want to set this context of what the presentation is going to be about, some of the best practices with Facebook ads, specifically for Amazon. And a lot of this is coming, so the software, as you mentioned, so a lot of that I'm going to be mentioning examples, and do things where I could basically like do it manually. You don't software a lot of this, but it helps with part of that. There just isn't other software that's able to do some of these different workarounds. So those are some of the examples. So first, let's start thinking about what can you do with Facebook ads? What are the different goals of Facebook ads? And this is an older image, but it kind of shows that there's a variety of goals that Amazon sellers have of what you need Facebook ads for. And it's not just sales. Like, yes, that's part of it. There's it's much more than that, and the way you can accomplish that. So this is sometimes a problem of that Amazon sellers. They think there's just one type of funnel or way to run Facebook ads for Amazon sales, or they start using ManyChat, but then they're not testing enough variety because of all of these other options that are out there. So on to the quiz, and actually we're gonna have a little vote in the chat as well. So there's two types of, so here's just two examples. This is very generalized. There's a lot of exceptions, but when you're using Amazon, so on the left, when someone is searching on Amazon and then they're purchasing on Amazon, so your listing conversion rate, 50% on average. I think this is right, somewhere down 15% up to 30%. A lot of variety. Is it more of a search? But just general conversion rate on Amazon is 15%, and if it's I just got a message making sure it wasn't Augustus that can hear me. All right, and then 3% is just the e-commerce overall, whether it's just all kinds of traffic sources to your website, to Shopify. 3% overall. Yes, lots of exceptions. There's sites over 10% conversion rate. It's a warmer audience. So there's a lot of exceptions, but just general 15% compared to 3%. Now let's look at some of the other pathways. So we're gonna have a guess and vote in the chat. So when you're running traffic from Facebook ads to try to get an Amazon purchase, so let's vote, and then you can just write in the chat. I think it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, and basically 1 is kind of like equivalent conversion rates, what you see on Amazon page. 2, 1 to 5% if it's equivalent to what you see like website overall. Something lower than that, so let's say 3 would be like less than 1% conversion rate, and number 4 is like something way low, like just much lower than that. And then this is just, let's say, general way of running Facebook ads directly to Amazon. There's all kinds of scenarios of doing this, but whichever way you're so let's see some votes. Let me quickly write.
Yeah. So people are voting 1, 1, 2. People are really thinking that it's a high conversion.
Okay. Yeah. So a couple. Yeah, I see some of the results. 1, 1, 2, 4. The general like idea, like the higher, lower, and maybe you have experience and you know what this is. So what I'm seeing in the comments, it's the abnormally really low conversion rate across most brands. There's a lot of exceptions. Like this is what the presentation is going to be about, how you get to the higher conversion rates, but it's really low, like even less than 0.1%, like lower than this, which makes sense. We hear so many e-commerce and Facebook ads experts talk about how you're taking people from a social channel to a shopping channel, and that's why there's incongruity there. So you either have to spend a lot of money to optimize ads, know your audience, have a great product, and have a great funnel. There's all of those aspects to increase this conversion rate, and then that's when you get it higher. So I know a lot of times I get feedback where like, oh, I'm running traffic Facebook ads and I got a few hundred clicks, but I'm not seeing any purchases or 1 or 2 purchases. And then I say, well, like that's actually expected, because don't expect 15% conversion rate because that's a very biased comparison to what we're normally seeing on Amazon. So we're gonna try to talk about all of the different strategies that I'm seeing Facebook. Well, not all. It's gonna be a short presentation, but just the overall of running Facebook ads to Amazon. There's kinds of different pathways. So I'm gonna tell you like what's done, what's commonly, and what you need to do depending if you're more beginner, more advanced, and then just like some very quick like hacks and tactics to basically increase your conversion rate regardless of what strategy you're using. Start a little bit slower. So just one example is where you're running Facebook ads, you're using some chatbot platform. There's different ones out there. ManyChat is like one of the most popular ones, where you use other tools that leverage ManyChat. And at some point, the traffic on and conversion rate varies quite a bit. It totally depends on what you're doing. So this is going to be the big difference, where if you're using some sort of search, find, buy, rebate discounts, usually conversion rate is higher because you have, like, in a way, this irresistible offer. But the trade-off is that it's a low-quality audience, or even though ranking effect on Amazon from that, but it's not necessarily going to be a long-term audience to have ranking effect. Or if it's, let's say, some sort of discount route, depending how you're doing it, it actually may be a low-quality ranking effect, meaning that signal is actually like bad type of signal. I know, like, Anthony Lee talks about this a lot. So it's like the types of traffic you're sending in are actually maybe bad types of signals. And then there's more real sales, where the conversion, where this is more where advanced brands use strategies where, like, you're actually trying to get real sales. There's customer journeys, and it's maybe more advanced funnel that you're having different touch points with a customer. So then conversion rates are much lower, but then these are different types of brands that are typically doing this. And the numbers just mean that, so in the green are about what's common from more spending brands. Number one is the highest one. So this, like, very commonly brands that they have low budget, even though advanced brands do this, still out of the other options I'm going to have, compared to brands with higher budgets, it's like something that they do, like, relatively rarely, and then trying to get real sales is a more common strategy. So that's why the number is closer to 1.3. You'll see some of these other options. I'm not going to go over all of these details, but just for you to see that there's all kinds of options out there, and you need to be aware of what is your goal of the Facebook ad, what you're trying to accomplish, that there are these different strategies, and are you trying to reach a more, like, a higher quality audience, lower quality audience? So is it more short-term or long-term? And test across the different options. So then, very similar to chatbot model, but actually even an older model is kind of doing landing pages that are geared towards Amazon sellers. And again, very similar conversion rates as well, like when you're chatbots, but usually you don't have as much kind of back and forth communication compared to chatbots. So chatbots usually have higher conversion rates. And then other types of funnels as well that are also landing page builders, but more e-commerce focused. So not the ones focused toward Amazon, just like actually what you can do through Shopify and websites. Usually they're more advanced than these ones because you just have a lot more flexibility what you can build. And usually, even though you could do coupon exchanges on these sites too, these are the ones where you can start building out more complex funnels where you have content marketing, customer journeys. These are much harder to do, better long term, but harder to do. So you have to decide which of these strategies. So overall, that there's all of these different perspectives. And when you're running Facebook ads, you're going to have to determine what are you running exactly right now. And when you're having problems with your ads, first, what is the problem before you know how to actually resolve it. I'm gonna skip through some of the sites, but so first you have to identify what is the issue. If you're running ads, and there's gonna be some main parts that are more relevant to Amazon sellers. So first, if the cost is too high, is the conversion too low, is the ranking in effect? There's like different steps that you have to be aware of in your own journey of running Facebook ads, where you are to make sure you know what you can do to make it more effective. So if the cost is too high, there's just very basic stuff. There's other videos that I've done that are about creatives and getting your cost down or your click-through rates up. And this is that you need to get engaging content or attention-getting content before you actually start worrying about purchases and customer journey and multiple touch and like Facebook ad and all of that stuff. First is just test way more images, way more videos, way more headlines, and make sure it's like a scientific experiment that you have the same everywhere and just a whole bunch of different images. So this is just that part about where you need to test just kind of getting that cost down. It's not necessarily going to be a high quality audience, first getting your cost down. And very briefly going to have this check sheet that, so kind of how Emma was talking about earlier about what you need to like double check or like have this process where every time you have any type of ad, make sure you're going through some sort of checklist. Did you work on the creative? What about all of these other factors? Did you test your audiences? And I'm not going to go over all of these in this presentation, but just so you have this baseline of that you need to have some sort of list that you're going through. So we kind of went through creative one. So then if the conversion is too low, number 2, so one thing like right away, you a lot of brands, very basic type of it's effective. So this is from chatbot. So in one example is that most brands, most Amazon sellers are using some sort of messaging related Facebook objective. So one thing is that you want to try to just like do this if you're not already doing this, is having some sort of type of objective and basically a custom conversion. When somebody goes through the flow, whoever's at the end of that is a higher quality audience than at the beginning of the flow. So it's more difficult to do in the middle of the flow just because of how ManyChat and Facebook works and how like the link tracking sometimes gets scraped away. But make sure that there's a link at the end wherever it's going to Amazon.com or wherever you're sending people, that that's trackable and you're making a custom conversion out of that. So one is if your conversion is too low, maybe it's just there's some sort of audience fit that's not too well, but by having this higher quality objective and actually being able to track that, that's going to be just like one simple way of making sure that that's improved. So related to this one is that, and this is relevant for whoever's doing some of those strategies that are related to messages or like rebates and ranking, like that's very common, but across all of those brands, most brands are using cost per message as their metric of deciding, is this a good ad or not? Like, do I turn this ad on or off? First, after you get through the problem of are you testing enough variety? Some brands, they just have one ad and that's all they have, or just a couple of ads. That's actually like really common. But let's say you're already testing 10 different ads. So like in this example, there's multiple ads. So you're using cost per message as your metric. If you have, let's say you have a whole bunch of different ads and then you know that somebody ends up purchasing later on, then you can estimate cost per rebate or cost per purchase, but then you have to be tracking that really well, whether you're using the coupon codes and you're being very diligent on that each ad is separate, each one has a totally different code, so you can track that. I mean, that's a lot of different work. That's basically one of the things Zon Tracker is helping with to automate part of that. But basically, the idea is that most brands make the decision based on cost per message, but it's kind of like a misleading metric because it's like very top of funnel. It works for a lot of brands, but this is where you need to test more. So in this example where this is using Zon Tracker as a purchase column, you can do this manually if you get customer data, and then you upload as offline conversion. So there's different workarounds to do this that's a little bit more manual. But in this example, this is very common where like the cost per purchase or the cost per rebate, it's basically the same thing in this marketing strategy, is it's like 65% lower basically. So even though, so this brand ran a few $100s of ads in a couple of weeks, that's kind of like on the lower end, but you see that even brands that are spending thousands of dollars on Facebook ads per day, same pattern, just more amplified. So this is equivalent to, if you're thinking of ACoS, like getting your ACoS down from 30% to 20% just by deciding based on another metric. So in this case, the purchases is what's more important. Like, yes, these other ads aren't performing as good, that have lower spend and even like higher cost per message and generally higher cost per purchase. But if you're then going to continue this campaign later on for another 2 weeks or for a few more months, you're going to want to choose the one that actually had the higher cost per message because your cost per purchase is much lower. So try to think of what is a lower funnel metric that you can think of. You're already going to be ahead of so many different Facebook advertisers that are advertising for Amazon. Even if you're having trouble getting like purchase metrics in there, then make sure you're doing something that's relevant to some sort of like custom conversion, the middle of the funnel or in the chat bot. All right, and there's actually just I haven't announced this at all in my own groups, but there's like a ManyChat integration that exists in Zon Tracker. Like it's live today, so that kind of like actually makes this even better. And then that was just released, but that's like very ManyChat specific. So for this other part, like is the ranking, like you're doing all of this, like your costs are decent, like you're getting conversions, purchases, and but like the ranking just isn't effective. This then has to do with a lot of other factors that there's a lot of discussions about this, of what's working next month, this month, last month, and what's happening every 6 months. So first I'm going to give all kinds of tips to help with various aspects of this. One is just more for advanced brands, attribution related. So you want to go into your Facebook settings, attribution, and activate this. You have to do this once, and then you're going to have the data. Even if you don't know what to do with it now, it's going to take you a couple of minutes. Shouldn't take you more to activate it, where you go in here and select all of your assets. That way attribution is tracking. One of the things that's going to help you is one, you can extend attribution period. So you can go up to 90 days. And this is, even though it might be like 5% of your purchases, that's after 30 days, still it's relevant to look at this, especially you could choose something like messages, but if you're able to get one of the purchase methods working where you're tracking your Amazon purchases or your rebate claims or your spillover sales from your website traffic to Amazon, if you can track that, that 5% could be really big for some brands because it adds up with 5% of other attribution, so you'll have more confidence in your ads. And then the other benefit is that you could see Google organic, kind of like an assisted conversion where you run Facebook traffic wherever it's going, to Amazon, to your website. Some people naturally will just go to Google and then to Amazon. And this is actually one of, I think it's the only way you're able to do this because of this new attribution program, just to know that out of these conversions, about 5% of them actually, like, Google was part of the process. So you have to like just consider this kind of like multi-touch point funnel. So just extra attribution there. So the tips is kind of get into, all right, like your ranking isn't affected. This is, even though that has a lot to do with actual Amazon listing, that's not my expertise, I'm not going to go there, or like your actual product and your actual customers, one of the things is diversification related. What are you doing? What signals are you sending to Amazon? And yes, there's the question like what Amazon URL you should be using. And it seems like over the past year, especially, and even like 6 months, where diversification is becoming even more important because now Amazon is just getting better and smarter. They have more data to track all of this. If there's some sort of weird signal, they're able to do things about that. Maybe they didn't pay attention to as much before. So one of the things, this is a common question, where do I run messaging objectives? Do I run, how I mentioned before, like a conversion objective? What you want to do is test multiple ones. And this is, not a lot of Amazon sellers do this, but this is going to give you an advantage where just do as many as you can. First, start with more than just one. If you're doing messaging reply, messenger objectives, try another one. Try some sort of conversion objective. Try some of these other ones where you're basically giving freedom for Facebook to pick various audiences, and you still have to look at cost per message, and usually the messaging is going to give you, the messaging objective is going to give you the best cost per message. But that's really good, but it's also like really bad where Facebook is so smart now where it could be leading metrics. So that's why you want to try multiple objectives. And then when you're looking at your results, it should be multiple types of interpretations. So you should always have like a second opinion where, all right, here's cost per message, here's another metric that's relevant, whether it's a custom conversion or the ratio of messages per links or messages that are in the top of the funnel of who enters the messaging funnel compared to at the end of that funnel who clicks off. What are some of those ratios? And then looking at the purchase data if you can as well. All right, so then kind of back to this check sheet where we talked about some of the other ones, where what types of kind of algorithmically are using different conversion events to give Facebook more data and different type of data, and then making sure you're kind of like testing it scientifically. That way you can interpret your results better. I'm not going to go over some of the other ones, but then just so you know that the checklist is after the video. If there's questions in the YouTube video, on YouTube or in any of Augustus's Facebook posts, then I can follow up if you want to know more about some of these. So this tip, actually just posted it in my Facebook group this week, so I'm not going to go over. You can look at the slides about an attribution hack. So I'm going to skip that one. And
you mentioned Facebook group. What Facebook group are you talking about? Can you tell the name?
Yeah, if you search for Zon Tracker or AMZ Jet, you'll see the Facebook group, and the link is up here.
Okay, complicated link. I will try to find, and I will. Is it FB funnels? Yeah, I think.
No,
okay.
No, not that one. If you search, I can just, well, it's the Zon Tracker Facebook group.
Okay, we'll try to find. All right, continue.
Okay, so we talked about some of these. where you are, really testing the right thing. Well, there are these other options. Don't just be doing rebate and ranking. Like maybe you try some of the other ones where you have ranking effect, but it's going to take longer to evaluate as some of the other strategies. And then it gets down to some audience testing. It could help with any of those. The audience testing is kind of like a bridge between all of these. What is the fit between your audience, your product, and also the Facebook algorithm? How are you testing your actual audiences? And one of the best converting audiences is usually just the 1% lookalike of your customers. So that's common. Sure, there's like different discussions, like do you do interest targeting? Sometimes one works better than the other one. Like you basically always need to test. But what some of the more advanced brands are doing is that they're testing way more lookalikes than I see Amazon brands are doing. And right now, how Facebook is changing more to CBO, different bidding methods. There's like these trade-offs. Do you still need to test more audiences or not? But still, usually the most advanced Facebook advertisers say like, well, you just need to test and see how it works with your brand, like your exact data that your customers are producing. So one of the things is test more audiences. And I know this gets time consuming, but just test more different types of lookalikes of your Amazon customers or your list or whatever you're doing, and then feed that back into your ads, ideally in different ad sets. That way you're testing them separately. I have just like a little hack for you guys. I haven't announced this one either, but I just kind of have this actually after the Prague event. So this is inside Zon Tracker, and I'm gonna give you guys free access. You can go to the link. There's a couple of beta features. I think just because of coronavirus, everything, I'm gonna give everybody like several months free access to like these couple of new hacks that are in the dashboard there. Not to the full tool, just because there's paid customers, but this will allow you to just select a couple of audiences and different types of lookalikes, including kind of like this, what do you call it, like the secret one where you're only able to create it from the Facebook API, the 10 to 20%. So it's always worth testing. And then it combines the variation. So like with one click, you'll have like 30 audiences. Again, this may seem like overkill for a lot of you. For the advanced ones, like you need to test a lot of audiences. And sometimes the 1% works better. Sometimes like the 3 to 4% works better than the 1%. You just have to test, and it gives more variety and more ways for Facebook to find audiences to optimize. So just something there that you can totally like do this manually. It usually takes a while. Time do we have left, Augustus?
Yeah, maybe 2 minutes.
Okay. We're actually finishing up, but I'm gonna talk about geo ranking a little bit. So just the slide, maybe you've seen this already if you heard about geo ranking, where so we're tracking with AMZjet how ranking is changing like one state at a time. So for now, this is in US. So one of the things I wanted to mention, and this is some of the discussions more recently, is about like variatory. I think like the discussion is changing every week because of what's going on right now. But what I want to say is more about, rather than the geo ranking itself, more about diversification of traffic, because it seems like Amazon, again, like not this month, but we're going to see what's going to happen, is that Amazon is looking at diversification of your traffic. So we're tracking all of these different things of where sales are happening, what is the rank of your product listing depending on where it is it coming from mobile or desktop? So like we're tracking all of this, and we know that it makes a difference, that rank matters depending on region, rank matters depending on device, and there's a lot of fluctuations where some categories fluctuate more or less. So it's something you have to start considering. And when you're doing all of these Facebook ad campaigns, that's one way where you can control your diversification. Some more advanced brands, they may have they have success on Amazon, and just that organic and the paid PPC from Amazon is what's like bringing them success, or they figure out a certain funnel, so they're kind of safe. But usually they're way more diversified. As you get bigger, you just naturally get more PR and more traffic sources. But if you're trying to figure out, try to diversify your marketing strategies, because we know that regions and placement has an effect. So that means you need to start testing this more. Which one is more relevant for your audience, either for diversification purposes and strategically from a Facebook ad algorithm perspective? Because when you have different campaigns, you're basically you're diversifying your Facebook ad structure that if a campaign is failing, you have another one to succeed. So that's where you experiment. Do you do desktop, mobile separately? So that's more of a diversification tip there. All right. All right. Very quickly on this one, there's this like very unique data where you could pull your sales data from, and again, this is for US right now. You could pull your sales data, and this is a new addition again over the past 2 weeks. And I'm going to give you guys free access to this dashboard. Again, this is not tracking related, but you can see how your sales in your categories, so you can switch to your categories compared to other Amazon sellers, just so you know, are you above or below the average of other Amazon sellers? So right now, if you're worried about where is your inventory or how close are you to certain inventory, do you have a lower budget, want to advertise nationwide because it's going to spread it out everywhere? So then only where it's positive, where are you better than average than other sellers, especially in your category, then those are the states you want to advertise to. Just pick the top 5 states as opposed to automatic placement and kind of like saving your budget. So that's another thing there. Oh, all right, that's it. I have way more slides there, but again, in the chat, you can look through some slides after this if there's follow-up questions.
Okay, I think we have one question. So that person, Steve, who is asking, what if you are only targeting Prime members? That's a higher quality customer, isn't it? I think he's referring to some image where you had something with Prime members.
So I know in Amazon PPC, depending what you're doing, you can target Prime members only. In Facebook ads, so I think you're referring to where if you like call out Prime members in the ads, again, you have to be careful. Does Facebook allow you to call out certain individuals? But this is actually a really good example where you are you're selecting for the audience, it's higher quality, and this is type of copy testing. So so yes, this is one of those ways where through copy or your creative or in your funnel, you ask a question, are you a Prime member or not? You know, things like that. So that's one of the things you want to test. And again, depending on your campaign, sometimes the more broader you are, the more people you'll bring in top of funnel. So the Prime type of filtering, you have to decide yourself, do you want to do that at the top of the funnel or bottom of the funnel? And there's actually no answer because it depends on your strategy. Do you want to go bigger approach and then filter at the bottom? So this is actually really common right now where it's some categories, it's harder to get purchases because of worldwide events. So a lot of brands are focused on audience building. They're not getting purchases, but it's cheaper right now to build your audiences. That way, in a month or in a few months, you're gonna recover, leverage the audiences then. So like I wouldn't qualify Prime members now. It's just like bringing as many people into your funnel as possible. And then later on in the funnel, you could qualify them and then build lookalikes off of who's actually making to the end.
Okay, very quickly, Sanjay is asking, can you target groups through Facebook instead of Amazon sellers?
In a really, really advanced way, some Facebook groups have a pixel. So I have that in one of the groups that I'm admin in, and then you could actually pixel a Facebook group. But Facebook is testing it. It's not like rolled out in any way. So no, other than all kinds of hacks that Amazon doesn't like, Facebook doesn't like, where you could like get people's emails that are in the groups and build lookalikes off of that, or you post a video from a page into a group. That's actually, and then you can retarget people that watched a page video inside a group, but not like, yeah, right.
Mehrad is asking, who should we get free access for Facebook? Please explain. I'm not sure.
The link that I provided, the bit.ly.
Yeah, I actually shared it. Yeah, it's,
yeah, bit.ly Prague Zone Tracker. So that'll give you access to 2 of the features I talked about. And I think it'll be like a couple of months free. And then depending on worldwide events, we'll see if I need to extend that. But that's not for a tracking feature. That's for the other ones.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Yev. This is your trophy.
Thank you. Like that.
Send to you by post once we can. And see you in the next broadcast. Thank you very much, Yev. And if people have some questions, I also share the links to amzjet.com and zonetracker.io. And you can share also link to your Facebook group. I didn't know which one you're talking about.
Good.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
And we have now Kian. Hello,
hey, what's
Kian.
up? How you doing? Hope you're well.
Hi. Oh, yes, we were missing you at the beginning. We had all the speakers, but you were not there. But I told to everyone that they should wait until Kian is there, because you have some hot slides. You updated your presentation to reflect the current situation. Oh, you updated your presentation to reflect your current situation. All right, so you founded Veltra, which is accessory, or how do you call it?
Yeah, so Veltra is actually a travel brand which I'm launching on Kickstarter, which is basically the world's best like carry-on backpack. But through these like challenging times that we have with like Corona, obviously travel is brought to a standstill. So I've actually had to pause Veltra for now and focus on other things until the world gets back to normal.
Yeah, so people know you a lot as an expert of sourcing. So this is what you will be sharing with us. Something about China, right?
Exactly. And I'm basically going to pivot my presentation to add the most value in terms of what's going on in China right now with Corona, what's going on over there, what's going on over here, and what strategies we can use to make the most out of that.
Exciting. So you can do the full screen of your presentation, and we will share your screen on the broadcast. Cool. Perfect. All right, time is yours.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Augustus. Right, okay, so guys, today I'm going to talk about how to source products from China. This was the initial presentation that I was going to give in Prague earlier this month, but unfortunately I couldn't be there because of travel restrictions and everything that was going on. And, you know, it's a crazy situation that we're in right now with this whole virus. And, you know, last night I was going over my slides and I thought, you know what, let me just update this and let me edit this to talk about what's happening like right now. So I'm basically going to talk about what's going on in China, what's going on our side, and then how we can make the most out of that, and then strategies to adapt. And just to give you a little bit of background about me, if you don't know, I've been living and working in China for the past 10 years. And in that time, I've developed over 2,500 products, visited over 500 different factories. And in the last 2 years, I've done a lot of like Amazon presentations, and I mentor a lot of sellers. And I do have a free Facebook group, which you can see in the bottom left, Sourcing with Kian, where I answer a lot of questions in the community. So just to give you a quick intro, here's some of the brands that I've worked with. I've worked with a lot of retailers in the UK and the USA, as well as Europe, and then a lot of brands and licenses like the NBA, and then a lot of big brands under promotion like Panasonic and things like that. So a wide variety of experience, and the real common denominator of being able to work with so many different brands is being able to get the best sourcing practices from China, being able to develop the best products at the best price and add the most value to your audience. So that's some of the stuff I'm going to go over today. One of the cool projects we did was with the London 2012 Olympics, and here's my brother. He actually got to run with the Olympic torch when it came through Scotland prior to the London Olympics, because we were the first family business to be nominated as a licensee, so that was quite cool. Here's a contract that we did for the United Nations, and this was for disaster relief equipment, showing that like not only price is important and quality, but also speed to market. And that's something which is very, very relevant right now as well. Certain categories are very highly demanded, and we need to act on them very, very quickly. The work that I did with the NBA, this is a layer play blanket, and we have a player on one side and the court on the other, so a kid can go to sleep dreaming that they are their favorite player. Steph Curry is actually a partner in that company, Active Dreamers. Proud to be part of a brand whose goal it is to inspire the youth to dream bigger. Active Dreamers and I want every kid across the world to know that dreams come true. So that was very important because we're showing the message behind the products as well, really, really branding it. And now, again, that is also more important than ever. And we also make good use of social media through that. We get some signed basketballs, some signed jerseys, which we give away to capture emails. And then Steph Curry also promotes some of our products on his Instagram whenever we launch. So that's huge as well. And
who is Steph Curry?
So Steph Curry is a basketball player for the Golden State Warriors. He's won, I think, 4 NBA titles. So he's quite popular, quite famous. And this was me in the factory a couple of years ago making the products as well prior to the NBA finals. And then I recently moved to Los Angeles. I've been here since September last year, and it's all about like, you know, proximity is power. I really believe that, you know, put yourself in the environment where your target audience and where your customers hang out and where the people who can really help you move forward in your business, that's where you have to go. So that's why I made the move, and I sort of encourage anyone else to put themselves in the proximity of their goals. As a result of the stuff that we did with Steph Curry, Neymar, the soccer player, came calling, and we just recently did a collection for him, which this is his Instagram, which I screenshotted yesterday, and you can see the link in his bio under I Love Football. It says activedreamers.com. So he's got our website in his bio, which has been there for about a month, which is quite cool. I think he's actually forgot to remove it, which is quite cool, because it was only supposed to be there when he posted. And this is me in the factory making some of his products as well. Okay, cool. So that's just a little introduction about me and what I do. Now, I've created some new slides about Corona. First of all, we're going to focus on China, right? What's happening in China related to Corona? So we have to consider what are the areas most affected, because as we know, the virus first broke out in Wuhan and it just sort of spread outward from there. And I get a lot of questions to say, hey, what's happening in China with the virus? And it is really, really area affected. So China's not like a one size fits all policy that, okay, if one area of China is affected, then all of them are affected. It's actually like different provinces have had different cases, and depending on what products you're manufacturing, they're going to be made in different provinces which have had different issues with the virus. For example, Wuhan is terrible, Guangzhou in the south, and Shenzhen area, which was also quite badly hit. But in between that, which was like the Fujian province, which cities like Shenzhou and Xiamen, which are popular for like, you know, garments and backpacks and things like that, they weren't so affected. They didn't have many cases and they didn't have any deaths. So they were all back to work as normal, whereas other areas of China were shut down. So before sort of considering what's going on and when does manufacturing get back to normal, just consider what area is your factory located in, and then contact your manufacturer to get the latest information. Then, as we know, a lot of factories are back to work. The virus situation is cleared up a little bit in China. So what you want to know is like, okay, if they're back to work, are they back to full capacity? Because a lot of people want to get your orders now that they are back to work. But a factory which may have had, you know, 500 workers may only have like 100 workers right now, because Corona happened during Chinese New Year, which is the largest people migration in the world. So a lot of workers couldn't actually travel back to their factory. So just make sure that they are back to full capacity. The other thing you want to know is, do they have a backlog of orders? Because remember that the virus broke out in China first before the rest of the world was affected. And in January and February, all we saw in the news was this virus is breaking out in China. And people here started freaking out because the factories were closed. And they were like, okay, I might not get stock for a long time. I better place a big order now to make sure that I can get my goods. Now, that caused a massive backlog in orders. And then now you want to know, okay, where does your order sit in that schedule? Now, I'm going to talk about this in about 5 minutes, but now that we have the virus in our countries, now people are trying to cancel their orders. So it's a bit of a mess situation, which is why communication is very, very important. So not only the manufacturers, but you have to check that the shipping forwarders are back to work as well. Because remember that a lot of these factories are in rural areas of China. So it's maybe 4 or 5 hours inland. And then their provinces might be fine. But when they actually transfer their goods to the port, the cities might not be in operation. So the port might be closed, or the custom broker might not be at work. So before confirming any orders to ship at a certain date, make sure you're keeping in touch with your shipping forwarder to make sure that your goods can actually go out and they aren't going to get stuck at the port. Because when your goods are at the port, you're basically paying rent and you're paying demurrage, and it can get very, very expensive. The other thing is check your manufacturers are okay, because remember, the virus is affecting a lot of us. Some people we know have the virus. So the same thing happened in China. So before asking your manufacturer about, you know, your orders and your shipping times and the delays and things like that, just ask them, are they okay? Because remember, you know, we're buying from people here. Check, you know, that their parents are okay, their kids are okay, their family's fine, everything's back to normal, and then talk about business, because they'll really, really appreciate that. And this is a key time to really build on those relationships that you have with your manufacturers. So as we mentioned before, they have a backlog of orders. Check that you're getting to the front of the production schedule, because as a result of the factories getting a lot of orders, they can basically pick and choose which ones they want to make first. And they can choose that based on how much profit is in them, or how the size of the order. Remember, factories aren't always attracted by like the most profitable orders. They're sometimes attracted by the biggest orders in terms of volume, because the bigger the orders, then the more of their workers, the more people they can put to work, essentially. A factory doesn't like to have 100 sewing machines empty without workers and then having to find workers later on. So if they can get a big order, which they can employ a lot of people to keep their factory running, they'll also prefer those orders. So remember, they might have a backlog. Just get in touch with them and check where you stand and see what you can do, build those relationships to see that if you can get to the front of the production schedule if you need your goods urgently. Another really important thing to consider is, in this crazy days that we're living in, suppliers may also pivot in terms of the goods that they are manufacturing. So I've had some of my bag manufacturers tell me that they're now making masks. And I was really surprised at that. But now, if you think about it, it makes sense, because making a mask is just cutting fabrics and sewing them, which is very similar to making a bag. So the workforce is skilled enough to make masks, and there's a global demand. There's a global shortage and a global demand for masks, so it makes sense for them to do it. So certain manufacturers, if you don't have any backups and you're relying on them to make one thing, they might be making something else. So that's another reason why communication is very, very important. And then also remember that workers may migrate to different areas and different factories depending on where the work is. So what's happening in the world right now is a lot of like homeware, home appliance goods, like maybe toasters and ovens and cook sets and kitchen appliances, are very, very high in demand, as is maybe like homeschooling stuff, like kids coloring in books and stuff like that. So those factories are getting crazy orders right now. They can't fulfill enough. So they're going to be hiring so many different workers. And after Chinese New Year, you get to basically decide where you want to work, which factory you want to go to. So certain areas making certain products which are in really high demand might be paying higher salaries, so workers may migrate to those areas. So that's just another thing to be mindful of. Like, the factories making your core products might have a lot less workers in their factory right now, so production time may be a bit slower. And then I would really use this time to strengthen your relationships which you have with your manufacturers, because there's so many benefits that you can get from a relationship, which I will talk about in the next slide. And a lot of people have also asked me, you know, what's the best time to go back to China? What I would say is listen to official sources, because the Canton Fair, which is the largest import-export fair in the world, over 3 phases, was suspended, and then I think it was back on, and then it's suspended again. So China is actually one of the safest places in the world right now, because I think yesterday was the first day that they didn't have any new cases. They've also shut down a lot of the emergency hospitals that they had built. But obviously, international travel is at a standstill. If you go to China, you might not be allowed back into your home country, depending on where you're flying from. So just consider that, and just listen to official sources before making any sort of decision about going back to China, because the situation is really updating every single day. So as I said, now's the time to strengthen those relationships. Here's some of the benefits of having a good relationship with your manufacturer. One is that they offer you new products that they're working on, products that they've had in development. And the stronger your relationship with them, you can ask them, hey, what is it that you're working on? What is it? Because we develop products ourselves for our brands and for ourselves and for other people. But remember, they're developing products as well. And if you have a close relationship, they'll tell you all the new stuff that's coming out. As a result of a better relationship, you'll have greater care. They'll take greater care in your orders, which will mean less returns, better reviews, and more market share. And that's really just down to the personal relationship that you've built with them and visiting them. They're also more likely to extend you credit terms, because, you know, I always say, like, working with your manufacturers, like working in partnership. You know, what works for me is what works for you. If you can give me like better quality, better pricing, and I can pass that on to my customers, I'm going to get more sales. More sales for me is more orders for you. So they know the long-term game, and they know that we have to work in partnership together. And part of that is also getting better credit terms, because right now, with a lot of retailers closing and maybe less people buying online, depending on what category you're doing, you know, a lot of people are running into financial problems. You know, they can't afford the cash flow of keeping their business in operation and paying their employees. So now is the time to really ask for favors if you have a good relationship, by asking your manufacturer, you know, to ship out your goods on 30 days credit, or, you know, wait till I get paid from Amazon before I pay you. And, you know, that all comes from a relationship. They're also willing to give you faster lead times, as I said about, you know, the backlog of orders like building up. You can get your items to the front of the production schedule ahead of everyone else based on the relationship that you have. Now, consider yourself like Amazon buyer A, who has a very good relationship with your manufacturer. You've been to see them before, you talk regularly, you do video calls on WeChat. And then consider another buyer who basically just inquires on Alibaba, never met them before, never put the face to the name, and you're both asking to get your goods at a better price and to the front of the production schedule. They're definitely going to lend those favors to you. So this is really the time to strengthen those relationships. Suppliers also give you information about your competitors, what their other customers' buying habits are, what products they're working on. That's more known like in the factory. They'll show you that sort of stuff. And then the final thing is they give you nice gifts as well. So that's something I love whenever I build up good relationships with manufacturers. So in terms of what's going on in China, in terms of the cases, I screenshotted this map last night, and I got this from the Johns Hopkins website, which I have a link to in my Facebook group. You can see in the bottom left, just sourcing with Kian on Facebook. And I've got links to this, which is basically updated every single day. But you can see the size of the dot determines the number of cases in that province, and the dot is in the middle of every province. And what the map allows you to do is you can actually just click on the dot and see each city in that province, how many cases they have, how many deaths they've had, how many recoveries they've had. And this is from Johns Hopkins. This is not data coming out of China. It's data that has been analyzed in the US. So that's very, very interesting to know, because once you know where your factory is located, you can check how their province has been affected, and then you have a better understanding of if they're really back to work and what's going on in their area. So, okay, Corona, now how does it affect our side of the business? Well, as I said, factories had a surplus of orders when the virus first broke out there. Now they're getting a lot of order cancellations because we were going crazy and placing loads of orders thinking that we weren't going to get our goods manufactured. Now we're like canceling those big orders because the demand has fallen on our side. So it's a bit of a mess, to be honest. And every province, every different category of product, every different region is going to have different scenarios. So it's really hard for me to say, okay, this is what you need to do, because every situation will be different. So this is why communication is so important. Then remember, like, what's happening in China purely depends on the category and its relation to the COVID virus in terms of now what are the categories of products which people are demanding. Then here's quite a cool thing. I actually predict that because of this situation, we're going to see a reduction of middlemen on Alibaba, because Alibaba, you know, it's good for beginners. And sometimes it gets a bad reputation because there's a lot of middlemen in there who like copy and paste images from real Amazon listings, post it on Alibaba. They wait till they get an order. Once they get the order, then they go and find a factory for it, and they just add on a great margin. So now I think as a result of what's going on, a lot of people are placing a lot less orders because they're waiting to see what's going to happen. So there's going to be less middlemen on the platform. But then as a result of what's happening in the world, there's a lot of people now working from home. A lot of people are now taking courses on how to sell online. And then I think there's going to be a surge in inquiries as well. So it's going to be cut down very short, and then it's going to get crazy very high. But we don't know in what categories that people are going to be looking at certain products. So that's one thing to consider as well. Yeah, so as I said, a surge in newcomers for people who are stuck at home and who want to sell online. And I think just a few days ago, you know, Amazon started freezing deliveries into their FBA warehouse of certain non-essential categories. So now, like, we have to consider FBM, fulfilled by merchant, what sort of stock levels we want to be holding on to. So just really consider that. And like, we don't know how long this virus situation is going to go on for, and how that's going to affect the global demand of products, and how people are, and how that affects people's buying habits. So really placing like accurate stock level orders and trying to predict as best as you can how your category is going to be affected is super important. And maybe this is a time where you want to consider pivoting into a new category of product which you think will have long-term demand. Like, for example, I know a lot of people are getting now into, like, you know, prepping kits, survival products, hand sanitizers. And, you know, that's a good category to get into, but maybe a lot of people are getting into it. So in 6 months, it's going to be highly, highly competitive. So it's a crazy time we're living in, but it's really, really important to do your research. And then also just remember, we are at the mercy of Amazon. And this is something that I talk about, what I've been talking about for a while, about branding. And it's like, now more than ever is the most important time to put your destiny in your own hands and really invest in your own brand and build your own sales channel independent of Amazon, because Amazon aren't really taking deliveries into their FBA warehouse of the non-essential categories. And if you're in one of those categories, well, you can't deliver your product into Amazon, so therefore you can't sell it. But if you took the time to basically build a multi-channel, like selling on Shopify, and also maybe getting into some retailers. I know a lot of like stores are closed, but then the major retailers are still open, like your Targets and Walmarts and places like that. So if you're able to get your products into those stores, well, now you're not so heavily reliant on Amazon. So I think now is definitely the time to consider the channels that you're selling on and try and get into more different channels. But it all comes with the brand experience as well, because people have to know and want your brand to go and seek you out. And then, as I was talking about freight, just really consider that freight forwarders, your shipping lines, they operate on really, really low margins. Like, it's a very competitive industry, very small margins. And as a result of what's happening, first of all, when the virus broke out in China, there was a lot less sailings of products coming out of China. And then now with this happening, there's a lot less containers, going into China, not only because of the demand, but the fear of contamination and things like that. So freight overall is down. There's a lot less supply. And as a result, they're going to be putting their prices up. And you might see some freight forwarders going out of business if that hasn't happened already, because they have really high fixed costs. And without income coming in, they won't be able to adapt quick enough because they're a very, very slow moving machine. So just triple check your cost of shipping before actually sending out any goods. Air freight might not be so badly affected, but shipping definitely will be. A good contact for that is Raphael at Unicargo. He's got a great shipping company. I always go to him for advice, so definitely check out Unicargo if you want the latest on shipping. And triple check your costings, because a lot of people, when they're delivering goods from China into their home country, they calculate their costings just on a sort of average cost for shipping. But really, you want to find out to the cent what is your exact cost of shipping, because if you just put shipping as 10%, but now it's actually 30%, well, that could eat into your profit margin, which was your entire profit margin. So just make sure you know exactly what's your landed cost before shipping anything, and then you really know if you have to tweak any of your prices before selling anything. So this is another screenshot from the John Hopkins thing that I've shared within my group. This is updated by the minute, so you can see the total number of cases, what parts of the world, and then this could also be an opportunity to start selling in other Amazon marketplaces around the world where they have areas which have been less affected and less deaths, or if you have some survival equipment or survival goods, getting it to countries which do demand it the most. So that's a really good tool and a very good resource, and it also shows you the recoveries as well, which I really like on the right, so you can see how many people are actually recovering from the virus and the countries most affected. So based on what I talked about, I want to go into a little bit about product development and branding, because this is the best time more than ever to be developing the products which add the most amount of value to your customer. I think gone are the days where people just used to sell shit. I mean, pardon my French, but we have to really focus on adding the most amount of value to our customer audience and then create that really overall branding experience. So I'm just going to go into that a little bit. So the camping brand, which I started off in Highlander, we were making outdoor items, backpacks, tents, sleeping bags, anything for the outdoors. And anything I was making, I was going and testing it. I was in the mountains, climbing in my backpack, sleeping in the tent, sleeping in the sleeping bag. Even if it's a travel coffee mug, I was using it to make sure that the handle doesn't overheat. So product usage is one of the most important things of developing a product of value. These are just some cool images. The one on the left is in Scotland, and then the one on the right is in San Diego. Here's a couple of other images from Scotland as well. That was one of the bags on the right that I was developing. And then Veltra, which is a travel bag, which is kind of on hold at the moment because the world isn't traveling. I was planning on launching it in April next month, but now I have to delay that and we see what happens. But this is cool because I wanted to test the bag in extreme temperatures. So I tested it in the desert in Dubai and also tested snowboarding with it in the Dolomites in Italy. So essentially you can see that I'm testing the webbing, the zippers, the buckles, the fabrics, that they don't melt in hot temperatures and they don't freeze and break in cold temperatures. And that was the same sample. So I know that I've tested it myself. I'm my own product practitioner. So I know it's fit for purpose. So that's one thing I would highly encourage you guys, that if you are developing products, make sure you are testing it yourself. So you are your own toughest critic and you know it's fit for market. This is a backpack which I developed, which was a 65-liter Ben Nevis backpack, and it won an award, Best Value, from Trail Magazine. And why this is really important is because a lot of people consider that product development can be expensive. Okay, if I have to develop the best product, then I have to pay the highest prices, whereas that's really not the case. And this is an example of that. I set out to develop the best outdoor backpack that I could, and then on the next slide it's really small, but you can see it got tested the best, and we're on the far left and we got best value. You can see our score in the bottom left. We got 4.2 out of 5. Other brands got 3.8, 3.6, 3.4, but the other brands which were scoring lower than us, you can't see it, but they were double the price. We're retailing for £115 and they were retailing for £200. So almost double the price, and we outscored them. But that's because we understand the customer audience, we understand what features we have to develop, and we understand how to keep costs to basically the level of the most value to the customer, not going cheap, not going crazy expensive, but what is the point, which basically is that level that people are really happy with the quality and the cost isn't super high. So that really comes from product development. And next, I really want to go over here sort of my top 12 tips for how you can develop the best product for your category. So first of all, I would say start with passion. Is it something you use yourself? This is a lot easier said than done, because based on how you learned Amazon and how you chose your categories, you might have gone after an opportunity rather than a passion. But I would say now more than ever is the time to start with passion, because to really make the best products, you have to be a product practitioner, as I mentioned before. So you're only going to really use and test something that you're really passionate about and you would use in your everyday life. So, you know, for example, I don't have any kids, so I don't have any baby brands or any baby products, but I do have outdoor travel, sport, all that sort of stuff, because that's stuff that I do myself and that's what I love doing. Second, like, are you solving a problem? I feel that like the best products are the ones where you've solved a customer's problem. And I've got a really good example of that on a slide that I'll show next. Do you have something unique? What is your unique selling proposition over the leader? You have to really understand like where you sit in the marketplace, who is the best seller and why are you better than them? I wouldn't be launching anything if I wasn't better than what's already whoever I consider the best in the market. And that doesn't mean, okay, let's make it a little bit lighter. Let's change the color. Like let's add a little bit foam so it's more comfortable. It's like, what is unique? What is different? What is it that you can market, which is better than everyone else in the market? So you really have to find that. And one of the ways I like to do that is to create a mood board. And a mood board, basically, I cover an entire wall with printouts. So I look at, okay, what are the in colors? What are the best brands at the moment? What products are they coming out with? What are the color schemes? What are the patterns? What are the fabrics that everyone's talking about right now? The recycled materials, how are those items being made? All this sort of stuff. Who are the biggest influencers who are promoting in my category? And I get all that information because I'm a very visual thinker and I note all of that stuff down and I get all the images of that. Then I print them all out and I put them on the wall. And then essentially you're just like connecting the dots. You start seeing things. You start to relate, you know, packaging to recycled materials, to certain influencers, to certain colors, and then it's almost like visual meditation. Then ideas just start to form in your head of what you need to do. So I'd highly recommend that. Just get all your ideas down, print them out, put them on the wall, connect the dots. And then obviously buy competitor samples. You know, we in our head, we think, okay, this is going to be the best product out there, but you actually have to have the physical sample of your competitors to test against theirs to make sure that you know that you are better and that you've used their samples as well as your own. And if your samples aren't better, then you have to go back to the drawing board and keep improving it. Then write every feature that you want in the product and then solve for that. And what I mean by that is that, so the travel bag, which I developed, it's got over 25 different travel features, some of which have never before been seen on a travel bag. And what I did is I was like, okay, let me just write down what I like to do when I travel. And one of the things was I like to watch movies on the plane, whether that be on my mobile phone or an iPad or something like that. So I developed a small little kickstand, which in the zipper puller, I can pull it out, it turns into a kickstand. You can put it on a tray table in front of you, and then you can watch movies. Now that kickstand only costs 25 cents to make. But because of that 25-cent feature, it now adds value to the bag of like over $10 I can add to the retail price. So that was a feature that I wanted. I figured out how to do it, and then I added it to the product. So that's just something you want to consider as well. And look, you're not all expected to be product experts, but once you figure out what it is that you want to add to the product, talk to your manufacturer and talk to your factory to be like, hey, this is something I want to add to the product. What do you guys suggest? Put it back to them, because remember, your factories also have product development teams and they can come up with ideas to help you as well. So definitely leverage their knowledge, because they've been making these products for 10, 15, 20 years. So they've got a vast experience as well. Then I would say it's very, very important to complete a specification sheet. And I've got an example of that on the next slide as well. But specification sheet is essentially one form which is going to have all your information, like the weight of your product, the materials, the colors, the Pantone colors, like everything. So I'll go over that in the next slide. And then the other thing is, don't overdevelop, because we can really fall in love with our product and we can really take a long time. Like I've developed some products which have taken me a year or 2 years. And then like by the time you're ready to bring it out to market, then it's actually something is past. So definitely try and be fast, but go with full force. Then test, as I sort of showed in the images before about me actually testing the product in the outdoors. That's the best test that you can give a product, not just, you know, sending it to an influencer and asking them, oh, hey, do you like this? Actually test it yourself and test it very rigorously and test it to destruction, so you know at what point your product will break. So when you start to get those reviews in or returns that say, oh, hey, I opened it up and the product just fell apart, you know that's bullshit because you've actually tested it yourself. Okay, and then align with the manufacturer which fits your purpose, because depending on where you are with your brand and what you want to do, and like whether your strategy is really just churning out mass volume cheap products, or you want less volume but you want higher margin, you want higher quality, there's different manufacturers which are going to help you with those needs. Like if you've ever been to the Canton Fair before, sometimes you have an entire hall full of suppliers of the same product, but they all have different benefits. So, you know, some of them maybe have like a really big workforce where they have very lean structures that can make things fast, high quality. Some of them might be a very small factory, but the small factories are still good because maybe they'll give you a much lower MOQ. You know, they'll do that trial order of like 200 pieces, whereas a bigger factory won't allow you to do that. So definitely figure out where you are with your brand, and then have loads of different conversations with loads of different manufacturers, and then figure out the right partner which fits with your purpose. And then I always believe that marketing starts with the product development. You know, whenever you see a Facebook ad or something like that, you're either being like educated or you're being entertained. Whereas I don't see many Facebook ads where, you know, people are actually talking about why their product is the best in the market. What features can they lead with to say, this is why you need to buy this product because this is the absolute best. So I think if you follow this sort of model and figure out why you are the best, and then lead with your marketing of why you are the market leader, and then make one item yourself. So if you've never been to China, this is one of the reasons why I say you always have to go to the factory, because it really opens your mind to figure out how products are really made. And once you know how they're really made, then you know how to make the best products. So I'll give you a quick example. I was in a factory here. This is a travel bag Veltra. I was testing the shoulder straps here in a machine where we loaded like I think 50 kilos of weights into the bag. Then this machine would jolt the shoulder straps up and down, up and down, up and down, making sure that the shoulder strap stitching could withstand the force. That was me loading the bag into it. Then I actually stitched one bag together myself on the production line. Now I'm a terrible stitcher, but it was very, very important to make one myself, because before I ever went into a factory, I saw a backpack as one unit on a shelf. But then after going to a factory, I can see it in 30 different pieces. Okay, I see the shoulder straps, the foam that goes in the shoulder straps, the webbing, the zippers, the buckles, the pullers, the fabrics, the waterproof coating, all these different features, all these different processes, how they're all put together. Now, when we're faced with challenging times, okay, you have a $20 backpack, and now you have a target of getting it down to a $15 backpack. I've got 20 different calculations I can make in my head of things that I can cut, or things that I could basically decrease cost to make sure that I can bring that price down. But if you've never been to a factory and you've never seen how products are actually made, it's very, very hard for you to make that assessment in your head of how to lower cost of your particular product. And also it works the opposite way. If you want to improve cost, increase cost and increase quality, you know exactly what you need to do to add the most amount of value to your customer. And the best way to do that is really make one item yourself. If you can't get out to China, and if you can't do that, then you can always deconstruct the product yourself, just take it to pieces and just try and educate yourself on how the product was actually made. And then this was just me in a fabric room, just sort of picking out some materials and stuff like that. So this is a screenshot, an example of a specification sheet. Here you can see like the overview, the design, the basic construction of the bag. So this is designed that like you can send this to any factory, and the idea is that you want to send this to several different factories so they all know the exact specifications. They all know what is the weight of the bag, what's the material of the bag, what are the Pantone colors, and then you're leaving like no stone unturned. So essentially every factory can give you an accurate price. But if you just tell a factory, oh hey, I want a 20-liter bag that should be olive green, it should have padding on the back, and it should have, you know, YKK zipper pullers, some people will interpret that information differently. Then your prices might come back, you know, $10, $11, $9. But if you send a specification sheet like this, you know everyone can actually quote you accurately, so you can align with the manufacturer who offers you the best price and the best service. But this is just one tab in a spec sheet. This is just a design and a construction, but you also have like all your fabrics and all your colors. You have your bill of materials, you have your decoration, the capacity, the dimensions, and then I have another tab with all my comments on the bag as well. So a specification sheet is super important if you've never made one before. Now, if you don't know how to make one, before going and guessing and doing it yourself, you can always just ask your factory of a product that you're buying already or you're considering buying. Just say, can you send me the specification sheet of this item? And if it's an outdoor furniture chair, then they'll basically show you all that stuff, and then you can basically just go in there, delete their company name, change the specification to what you want, add your company name onto it, and then you basically send that specification sheet out to many different factories, and you can get accurate pricing. So that's a little hack and a little shortcut of how to get yourself a detailed specification sheet. So as I said, you know, solving a problem is the biggest opportunity. This is a travel pillow that we did a few years ago. And, you know, the traditional U-shaped travel pillows don't work. You know, you still get a sore neck if you lean to the side. You can't lean in the front. So we developed this fleece scarf that goes around your neck, which has a sort of plastic mold, which is bendable, which goes in there in a foam padding inside, and you can wear it to either side, to the front, whatever. We basically solved the problem. We wanted to do neck pillows. We didn't say, okay, let's just add more foam, let's change the color, whatever, let's make it bigger. We're like, no, let's solve the problem that travel pillows don't work. And since we launched, there's been over 1 million units sold. So that's why I say solve a problem, and then you create the best opportunity for yourself. So this is Veltra, the travel bag, which I've got, which I don't know when the launch is going to be now, but we'll see. And this is essentially all the different features that we have in the bag. You know, from the outside, it just looks normal, but it's packed full of features. And I've got loads of videos explaining all the cool little features that it's got inside. Now, a quick little product selection model, which I do, is what I call the 365 model. And these are the 365 days that we have in a year. Now, if we're going by the outdoor brand example, if you're an outdoor enthusiast and you want to climb Mount Everest, okay, out of the 365 days in a year, you're probably going to spend 5 days in the year using this particular backpack, being on the top of a hill. So those are just your 5-day products. Now, your 60-day products, what I call, are like your Saturday and Sunday products, your weekend products. If you're an outdoor enthusiast, maybe you want that outdoor furniture chair to sit in the garden, to drink your beers, whatever. So those are the sort of products you want to align in that category. Then your 300-day products are your Monday to Friday products. Here's a packable waterproof rain jacket, which you're going to wear to work, or you're going to have in your bag before you go to work, Monday to Friday. Now, why this is really important is that the 300-day products are by far the best sellers in your range. Like, the 300-day products outsell the 5-day products 100 to 1. But we would not be able to sell the 300-day products if we didn't have the 5-day products in our range. The best example I can give of this is North Face. North Face are the best at aspirational marketing. You go into any North Face store and you'll see a billboard or a big poster of a guy jumping out of a helicopter, snowboarding down a mountain. But 99% of the products that North Face sell are hoodies, t-shirts, fleeces, because people want that association with that lifestyle. So just think about you, your category. What do people associate with being the highest quality in that category? Develop a product that which aligns with that. You don't necessarily have to sell very many, but you have to be able to market it. Then when people buy your core products, they buy your core products with the feeling, knowing that your brand delivers the highest quality to that category. So that's just one thing to consider. And that's more important when you've actually developed a brand, you know, and maybe something you can leverage off of Amazon, like on a Shopify store or something like that. I don't know how much time I've got left, but I'm gonna wrap up quite quickly. I'm just gonna finish with like branding versus selling. Now is the most important time, more than ever, to brand. Gary Vee, someone that harps about this quite a lot, and he says 90% of people sell and 10% of people brand. The 10% of people who brand end up selling 90% more than those who sell. And I couldn't agree with this more. And, you know, I think now is the time to take a deep look at yourself and your brand and be like, okay, what can I do to make the branding experience better? How can I add the most amount of value to my customer? Now, here's a cool example. These are essentially the exact same shoe. One is $65, one is $975 because of brand. The brand on the right is one called Off-White. It's very, very exclusive, very high end, promoted by like the world's best influencers, but they've just really leveraged that branding experience. So this is a very extreme example, but I'm just trying to show, like, if you over deliver on the brand experience, that allows you to add more margin to your products as well. And then here's Gary again. Branding is something that allows you to build community. Super important, super obvious, but like the more we can build on our community, the more we can market to our audience. So community allows us to generate repeat customers and brand evangelists. Your brand evangelists are the people who want to shout about your brand because they love it so much that they want to tell their friends. And then here's the thing. If you have a Facebook audience of like 10,000 people or 20,000 people because they love your brand, well, you just market back to your community without paying for it. Whereas if you haven't built a community and you haven't built a brand, every time you want to launch a product or sell a product, you have to basically pay a lot of expense in Facebook ads, whereas you could just market to your community for free if you've built up a loyal community. And that all starts with the brand experience. Now, Once you build your community, then you can further refine who is your customer avatar. You can see like, okay, who are the people buying the product? How old are they? What language do they speak? Where do they hang out? How much disposable income do they have? What do they like to do in their spare time? And you can really, really market specifically to those people to fulfill their needs. And then just remember that branding starts with core values. A lot of people ask me like, okay, well, how do I get started to build a brand? It's like you have to know who you are as a brand before you can portray that message. So you have to really go into your core values, which I'll explain shortly. And then there's a brand called Peak Design, which I feel I've done this best. And the reason which I'm launching Veltra on Kickstarter and not on Amazon first, and it's because Kickstarter allows you to build community, because someone purchases your product on the Kickstarter platform on crowdfunding, knowing that, okay, I've purchased this product and this company is in existence because I've paid for it. And now with my money, it's going to fund their production. So it creates that sort of loyalty and community that it's not just like, okay, Amazon, I need to buy this. I bought it. Boom, it's delivered next day. It's really allowed you to build community. And an example of Peak Design, their first product, which they launched on crowdfunding on Kickstarter, raised $215,000. And it was for this camera clip. Since then, they've done 8 or 9 different campaigns. Their 5th campaign was for this like travel bag. This travel bag, which will this range, it had 26,000 backers and it raised $6.5 million for one product. $6.5 million over a 30-day period where they launched. Now, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. They just launched a tripod recently. This tripod, which is crazy, $12 million for one product. And it all came from community. They built a community of travel enthusiasts who like photography. They gave that community everything they wanted. They developed the products only for that community. And now their products are loved by that community. And here's the results of it: $12 million for one product, not to mention the $6 million made on the other products. So it's crazy. It's insane. I think people really underestimate the value of community. So going back to the core values, here's a company that everyone knows, Google, and their core values are focus on the user and all else will follow. Fast is better than slow. You don't need to be at a desk to need an answer. There's always more information out there. You can be serious without a suit, and great just isn't good enough. And why this is important is that like when a core value of your company is great isn't good enough, then that basically tells you the type of people that you want within your company. And when you're hiring someone and they see these core values, you want that applicant to either say, hell yes, I'm home, or hell no, this place isn't for me. You don't want anything gray. You don't want anything in the middle. And you definitely don't want anyone who doesn't want to be there. So the core value not only helps with your branding experience and with your products you want to develop, but the people that you want to hire within your company as well. So just take a look within, just be like, what's important to you? And then just really get your core values done. And then from there, start to build your community and your brand that way. I want to finish with this sort of image of Shanghai. I used to live in Shanghai for a few years. This is Shanghai in 1990 versus 2010. And what I do want to say is, look, the world grows very quickly. This is 20 years difference. What was once grassland is now one of the biggest financial centers in the world. So this is a short-term thing we're going through. It's a terrible thing that we're going through. But this is really where we can make the most of it. We can really just look within ourselves. We can create the best experience. Everything's going to be okay. I hope you're all well. And this is basically the end of my presentation. I do have a Facebook group, Sourcing with Kian. It's totally free. If you've got any questions, you just jump in there. You ask me a question, I answer it. The community answers it. I'm also active on Instagram, where I post a lot of stories when I'm in China and when I'm developing products, and on LinkedIn as well. And there's a website at the bottom, KIANGOLZARI.com. It's just a landing page at the moment, which I'm going to give access to a lot of tools and resources there as well. So if you sign in there, I'll send you a free PDF as well of my top 50 sourcing terms as well. So thanks very much, guys. Thanks for having me, Augustus. I hope you're well. And if I can answer any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Kian. I shared some of your links, or maybe 3 or 4 in the chat during your presentation. At the beginning of your presentation, David confirmed that his factories are back to work, so everything is working.
Perfect. David's a good guy. What's up, David?
Okay, you know him. Okay, Jess was asking, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would say just join the Facebook group, Sourcing with Kian, and then just add me as a friend on Facebook. I'm there, and then just send me a message on there, or just send me a DM on Instagram.
Yeah, I will share again Kian's Facebook group. Okay, and next one, do you help with unique products since you have connections with so many manufacturers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I look to develop like the best product for that category. I mean, sourcing has got so many different like terms. Like you could say, okay, sourcing is buying a coffee mug and just finding the best factory, the best price. But it's also like taking a product and saying like, how can I make this the best possible product in the market? So as I said in the presentation, like product development is a massive process of what I do and why I can add a lot of value to a lot of the brands that I work with. So definitely, I'm much more interested in like unique projects rather than just sort of like pricing projects and things like that.
Perfect. David was answering to someone else there that you are helping people. Seaside Owen said that he had to clap the medical workers while you were presenting. Okay, McLEOD, a good demonstration. Can you please tell a way to reach manufacturers since they don't respond to the newbies or they don't respond to at all, especially when visiting China is an issue?
Yeah, so that's a good point. I think like as a beginner, Alibaba and Global Sources are definitely, and that's globalsources.com and Alibaba.com are definitely your best resources for getting in touch with the manufacturers. Now, the key thing is here to show your experience, even if you don't have experience. You don't want to like look as if you're a beginner. Like if you write an email to a manufacturer and say, oh, hey, this is my first time doing this. You know, what products do you offer? You know, like they're going to just tell that you're a beginner and they're going to just discard you because they essentially just want to focus on doing business with the serious people. So for a beginner, I think the good way to do it is you have to be curious and you have to ask a lot of questions. So like, let's say you want to source like a coffee mug, right? You would go to a coffee mug supplier in Alibaba and just ask all your questions like as a beginner that you maybe don't know. Like, hey, what's the material of your coffee mug? You know, which markets do you supply? Do you supply any retailers? What testing do I need to do to bring this product to my market? Just get all your answers questioned and get all your questions answered. And then once you have all that information, then and you compile your specification sheet, you ask the suppliers to send you a specification sheet. Then you go to other manufacturers. Like, so you just find the first few on Alibaba as your test. Then you get all your questions answered. You gain your experience. You know what you want now. Then you get your specification sheet, and then you go to the new manufacturers on Alibaba and inquire to them and say, hey, I'm looking for this coffee mug. It has to be steel. It needs this type of testing. I need it delivered to this country. What's your best price? And then the manufacturer's like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about here. I'm not going to bullshit him. I'm going to give him the best price. So by showing your experience, that's how you can get them to take you seriously. And you get that experience by just asking a ton of questions to other manufacturers first.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kian. And like every speaker at European Seller Conference gets a trophy.
So cool,
we'll send to you once we can. And
that's really
cool. Yeah. So was glad to have you here. Thank you. Are you now in which part of the world?
Right now I'm in San Diego. So I was living in LA and I was in downtown LA, but it started to get really crazy because like we only have like one supermarket, which is like Whole Foods in downtown LA, and they just like the shelves were empty, and then all the restaurants started closing as well. So I was like, where am I going to get food here? So it started to get pretty dangerous because people started panicking. So I just got out of LA. I came to San Diego. I'm staying with some family here. So yeah, all good. Just riding out this time, just, you know, spending time with family. So it's cool.
All right. Thank you, Kian. Bye-bye.
Right. Thanks, Augustus. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for putting on this conference. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, bye. So everyone, thanks a lot for joining us. I'm glad to see that after 3 hours, we still have some viewers. During this 3 hours, we had the 5 presenters who couldn't make it to present in Prague. And this is how we are paying for kind of giving back to those speakers, also giving a chance to present during to the audience. And I will stop now with all the presentations and see you. Don't forget to subscribe here below. Wait a moment. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe here. We are uploading more videos with the Amazon experts, with different Amazon event organizers, and also with different Amazon tools. All right. Thank you. Bye.